Sup, my beautiful gangster? We're back at you again with a brand new episode. That's actually a very special episode because I think both of the hosts, me, the French Canadian one, and the decent one that is BDGLQLB, and the guest that we have tonight, we're all big fan of it. We're all pretty big fan of it. I mean, I got the Beyond, sign tattooed on me, so that's saying much right there. Please welcome Rob Kopenski from Georgia, or Rob from Georgia, right?
Yeah, hey, how you guys doing tonight?
You may have, you're on Body Bags, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you may have seen him on Body Bags and on Schizophrenic Dissection with James D. Cox too. How you you're it's been what, maybe 3 or 4 months since you started doing Schizophrenic?
Yeah, the Schizophrenic Synopsis.
Yeah. I know it's dissection and synopsis, right?
Right. Yeah, we kind of stepped away from that from the moment. Just so much happening in his life right now and whatnot, and but yeah, I mean, yeah, that was fun. I mean, Body Bags is fun too, but yeah.
Yeah, so definitely give it a look. Just go on YouTube, type Body Bags, VHS 82, right?
Yep.
Yeah, VHS 82. And for BDG, it's what? Body Bags?
Body Bags and BDG reviews.
Yeah, so.
Quite simple there.
I'm the only motherfucker who's not on that shit. So, yeah, check those guys out. Yeah, so we've been talking about like having guests for a while, and it was like, damn, we gotta give a go to that guy because I was a big fan of what you did on Body Bags. So I feel like I'm sucking dicks right now, but it's true. Like I really enjoy what you do. So I was like, oh, we're doing like, and we pull up we put up a poll on the page saying like, what show should we do next? And I was wishing for that like doll one, like that Robert the Doll 1 and 2 plus Pinocchio's Revenge, because that would have been a blast. But everyone was like, go Gates of Hell. We want to hear about Gates of Hell. So there you have it. And on top of that, we got a special guest with us tonight. So that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got a couple questions for you before we begin on the news, Rob. Halloween or Friday the 13th? Franchise wise.
Halloween.
Yep.
Yep.
Same for me. Can you give us like 2 or 3 points why?
Probably because I mean, starting with when I was a kid, probably Halloween definitely was played a much larger impact in my life growing up as a kid. I mean, I can remember when the original Halloween would be on TV late at night, and my parents would be watching on TV, and I'd be sneaking around the corner of the hallway, because that music would captivate me and just pull me out of my room down the hallway, and I'd be sneaking around the corner, watching as much as I could watch, and I just became a fan, and then eventually I would say probably starting with part 4, my mom actually, we kind of made it a thing where we would actually see the newest Halloween at the theater together. It just kind of became a thing with me and my mom, and so I probably had a stronger impact or relationship thing going on with that franchise. I mean, I enjoy Friday, but Halloween probably means a little bit more to me.
Cool. I mean, but when it comes, I completely agree. By the way, because it's pretty much the same thing that happened to me. But when it comes to sequel wise, are you like still on the Halloween side? Because I am really like Halloween 2, 4, fuck 5, even 3. 3, I love 3.
Oh yeah,
Aged.
absolutely.
Yep. When it comes to
Oh,
sequel, really?
I think Halloween 2 is one of the best sequels I think
Ever.
has ever been made for
Oh
any.
yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
E-
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
the end is absolutely. I love the end, even though it kind of has the rug pulled out from under it with the following sequels. It still is great, great.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next question. That's gonna be a good one, I think. Alien 3. Thoughts?
I love the director's extended cut of it,
The assembly cut?
the assembly's cut. Yeah, I really like it. I'm a big fan. I know not a lot of people are, but I am. I
I
really
we
enjoy
are
it. I really
we
enjoy
are
it.
we are too. We really are too. When it comes to when it like since we're talking about sequels and shit, we're gonna move to remakes. Um, if you had to choose one, I consider it to be like the big four, if you will, the big four of the remakes when it comes to like sci-fi horror, if you will. You got Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you got The Fly, you got The Blob, and The Thing.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the '76, for sure.
Yeah, that's the one you would like. Let's say like on a deserted island, that's the one you would bring.
Yeah, because I don't consider the Thing a remake, so I kind of don't count that. I mean, if I did, then absolutely the Thing, but I don't know. I just love the '76 uh, version of the Body Snatchers. I think it's one of the best remakes ever. I mean, The Fly's awesome as well, but I don't know. I just have a thing for the Invasion.
Well, you're kind of right because I mean, like the thing from Another World came out in what
51.
50 yeah 51 or 50. I had 52s in my mind, but yeah 51. But I mean, it's so different from the source material. Like Who Goes There, that novel.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, it's not even a remake. Even the remake itself is different from the novel. So it's kind of I mean, I'm all about 2010, The Thing. No, I'm just kidding.
You damn well better be
It's
kidding.
still pretty good. I mean, it's still pretty good. But when it comes to like the big four of the remakes, for me it's The Fly. Absolutely, I love Invasion of Body Snatchers. Really, lately I kind of tend to prefer Body Snatchers though. That's kind of weird, but I love
Uh,
Body Snatchers.
the Abel Ferrara one,
Is it? I don't know who did it.
93.
Really. Yeah, 93.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's actually a pretty decent. That's a pretty decent. I'll say reimagining of the story.
What up? Sorry.
As Will coughs up a lung.
What about you, BDG?
For me,
Out of the four.
man, that's kind of like asking someone to pick their favorite child. Um,
My favorite child. I know my favorite child is Baby Yoda.
oh yeah, there you go. Um, I'd have to say probably I'll go with The Thing, even though like you said, it's not really a remake, but it I'll say it's more of a reimagining than it is a remake. But if we're just doing like straight remakes, I would have to go with The Fly.
Yep. Same for me. Like I said, The Fly all the way.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Invasion is one of it. I don't find movies really scary anymore at my age, but I find the '76 Invasion genuinely scary. You know.
I think it is too. Um, we got one last question for you, Rob. That's the segment that we call horror or not.
This should be good.
Alien.
The original 1979 Alien?
Yep.
Yep.
Horror. Absolutely. It's horror.
Hells
Jaws.
yeah.
Jaws.
Horror. Absolutely.
Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, that's a
Tough one.
That's a
huh?
tough one. That's tough. You got me. You stumped me right there. You made me think. That's tough. I mean, it's definitely got some horrific elements in that movie.
Oh yeah.
For
I
sure.
think it's horror. I really think so.
That probably is safe. Lean that way.
I think essentially if whatever movie you're talking about, if you can make a meme of it and it's a horror meme, then more than likely it's a horror movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Next one. 7.
Oof.
I don't think 7 is a horror.
No, that one's even more difficult than Silence. But that's more like a
Yeah,
crime.
you went from easy to harder, and you still got one after that. So
that would probably be more like crime, noir, suspense, thriller. Dang good though.
There's some horror element to it.
Yeah.
Like,
But
don't get me wrong, but there's the horror DNA is somewhere in it, but it's not obvious and it's not big enough to be considered horror, I think.
No, but I'll tell you, I saw that in the theater, and it's one of the few times I remember walking out. You could have dropped a pin needle on that carpet, and you could have heard it fall because that was a pretty silent crowd walking out, and that put a nice smile on my face.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest. That ending alone.
Oh, it's easily one of the best.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you gotta just love how mean spirited it is.
Well, how can you not feel for him? I mean, how can you not?
Well, yeah, his reaction is 100% logical. That's what you would do.
Yeah, it's pretty legit.
It's like, yeah, like this guy's. Well, I'm hardly giving it away. It's an old enough movie now. Spoiler alert: if you've never seen 7, you're living under a rock. You get your wife's head in a box, and not only that, like she was pregnant too. That just kind of adds to the thing. And then it's like, and you have a gun, and he's saying, go on, do it.
There's a dread factor going on for it, but I don't think it's strong enough to be considered horror compared to, let's say, like I said, like Silence of the Lamb or.
Yeah. I would call it horror light.
You know, it works well when you don't need to see a thing to be pretty horrified in the moment, though.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, if you can pull that off, you've done a good job.
The last one I got for you. I won't say how I categorize it before you do, though, because I know most people are really split on it. And that film is Duel. Horror or not?
I say instinctively I would just go no. But then again, I don't know. His life is in peril. He's being chased. He's in a fight of survival.
Yeah, it's like an unknown menace too, because you don't ever see the driver. So I tend to say it's horror.
I mean, really. I wouldn't want to be in that situation.
It's a pretty horrifying situation. I mean,
yeah.
I think Duel is horror. Really, it's like like Steven Spielberg said it so well. Actually, that's from an interview he did for Jaws. Like, that truck is like a force of nature. There's nothing to stop it. It's just pure terror. You don't see it. You don't see who's like pulling the strings, if you will. You don't see, like, I don't even, like, when I watch Duel, like, I'm not even thinking that there's actually someone in the car. I'm just, not in the car, but in the truck. I'm just, that truck wants to kill him. And that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah.
So you don't think it's horror, Rob?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess. I mean, listen, it's been so long since I've seen it. I'm trying to really even go back and revisit it in my mind. It's been so long. I know I've seen it.
Yeah.
But based on what we're talking about, I would say probably if I could watch it tonight, I would imagine probably I could see exactly where you're coming from.
Cool. One last question. Favorite subgenre? Well, I have two last questions. Favorite subgenre of horror?
I would slasher.
And the last one is favorite decade.
Oh, 80s, hands down.
We're all about 80s too.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, should we go on with the news?
Yeah, sure. So there's not a whole lot except for like the big news. I mean, Kirk Douglas died.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, and so did Diane Thorne or Diane. I don't know. I've never known how to pronounce her first name.
Well, in French,
Dyanne.
in French, it's pretty simple. It's Jan Thorne. we
There you
don't
go.
we don't
Her.
fuck around names.
Yeah. So those are the two biggest pieces, obviously.
What about that Texas Chainsaw reboot, though?
Um, I don't know what to think about it because I mean my thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw films have always been when you put the name Texas Chainsaw there, you create certain expectations, and it's very easy to miss the mark.
Disappoint? It's very easy to disappoint.
Yeah.
Or the Leatherface name.
Yeah.
Well, aside of 3, because I love 3. I love
Oh,
the
yeah.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, but Leatherface, that was pretty fucking bad, bro.
See, I kind of liked Leatherface, honestly, but not as a Texas Chainsaw movie. Had it been any other killer, had it been like the origin story of any other like serial killer, like the beginnings of a new slasher,
It's kind of like Michael
enjoyed it a
Myers.
lot more.
It's kind of like Michael Myers. We don't need a background story for it.
Yeah.
For him, I think. What are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think you're right when you say it's that seems to be the one franchise that is most easy to disappoint.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. But I reviewed Leatherface on Body Bags, and of course, I have this thing where I always try to pull as much good as possible from whatever it is I'm looking at. It's just something I can't help. But I think what would have made that movie a lot better. I mean, I like the fact that you had a couple French directors with the history that they had that were taking it on. I don't know. I think I mean, there's parts of that movie. The cinematography is absolutely insane. I think it's a beautiful film to look at for the most part. Those guys really know just the mechanics of filmmaking.
Yeah.
Just looked it up online. It's Alexandre Bustillo and Julian Maury.
Yeah. I think it would have been better if they would have thought more in terms of how could we connect what we're doing now with this, say, not just the first film, but even, I think more importantly, the second film, and developing some characters that we see later on and who those characters might have been. If you're going to do that back then, instead of laying out a bunch of characters that really are meaningless, with the exception of a couple, I wasn't sure exactly why they chose that route, but I mean, in terms of...
I completely agree with you. Since they are meaningless, I see Leatherface as being like a soft reboot, like a first entry in a new trilogy or a quadrilogy or whatever you want in a new era, like to try and connect Leatherface to the original one. That really don't works for me.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
you can. You can watch Leatherface and TCM 74 right after it, and like, it's okay with you?
Not really.
Now you need another film in between Leatherface and the 74 film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because there's too much of a time gap in between the two, and that didn't help its cause much.
I have to say though, the alternate ending for Leatherface is damn good.
The alternate beginning is way better.
Which was the beginning? I can't remember.
The beginning, it opens up with the birthday party scene.
Oh yeah.
But alternatively, it is an again, a beautifully shot scene in the Judd, I guess is Judd, is hanging around the barn and where the pigs are, and he's watching his grandfather. I guess he's watching his grandfather, who's preparing to gut a pig. And it's just a beautifully shot film where he's just kind of standing there. We get from his perspective, looking at his grandfather, and his grandfather kind of walks off in a direction, and he slowly moves up to the chainsaw that's on the bench, and he sort of begins to slowly, touch the blade of the saw, and then boom, scene ends, and that's it. I mean, but it's a beautifully shot scene with the sun. It's early morning, and I mean, it's just, I mean, those guys, like I said, they know how the cinematography is beautiful, and it really does kind of, I don't know, created a really interesting vibe early on, where I think the birthday party scene is just, I mean, I don't know, it's just been kind of done, been there, done that, and.
I just my problem is, I think, is the way that they establish Jed to be Leatherface don't work for me at all.
Right.
Really.
No. That was, yeah.
I mean, what irritated me though is you have this character in the big guy that you assume is going to be Leatherface.
Right.
And honestly, you're not wrong in that assumption, because I mean, when you see Leatherface as an adult, that's what he looks like. He's a big guy. He's not scrawny by any stretch of the imagination. He doesn't talk. So I mean, it's a complete red herring. But it where some red herrings you get, and then when you're shown that it's not the case, you're kind of like, oh, that's so awesome. In that one, I saw it and I was kind of like, oh.
Well, when it comes to origin story, bro, I mean, I don't think they can top, even if it's not in the same timeline. Like the beginning, bro, I love the beginning. I think it was done great, really.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not too far back in time. It's just a right timestamp to see what Leatherface was all about.
Yeah.
And how that family became like the Hewitt family, because it's called the Hewitt family, I think, in the remake.
In the remake,
like how the Hewitt family came to be. I think they did an amazing job with the beginning.
It was a fun movie. What I always think happened with the beginning was it came out around the same time as Hostel 2. And Hostel 2 was just like a better movie, I found. So
I'd find myself watching DCM, the beginning, way more often than Hostel 2.
Oh, I agree 100%. I would watch it more than I would Hostel 2. But I think, I don't know. It just, what it was where Hostel 2 had this sense of fun almost in it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the beginning, was dead serious, and I almost got the idea watching it that the director's aim wasn't to entertain, but it was to hurt the audience.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
And I kind of like that, honestly, but it's kind of twisted. It's the way it should be.
You got some other news?
Yeah, I'll just take a look. Like I said, there's not a whole lot. Apparently, there's a new documentary going to be coming out called The Mothman Legacy. It's going to be all about the Mothman in whatever place it was, West Virginia.
There was there was a film about it, right? The Mothman Prophecies, right?
Yeah. It was an interesting little thing, I like a good documentary when you can get it. Let's see what else
44 minutes. We gotta talk about or 77 minutes, 44 minutes.
77 minutes. Oh, that.
Rob, are you into true crime stuff, or?
I don't watch a lot of it, but I can if something's definitely thrown my way. I have no problem checking things out.
God damn right, bro. You gotta see that. We actually thought about that. That's what, episode 3 that we did? I talked
so, yeah.
about the McDonald massacre that no one was talking about. There was a big massacre in the McDonald back in was it 80s, 70s? 84. Yeah, there was a big McDonald massacre. That was a pretty big thing, and everyone forgot about it. Me and BDG love true crime stuff. Things like serial killers, mass shootings, like Columbine and shit. And he came up on 2B TV. came across that documentary, and it's probably one of the most graphic documentary I've ever seen.
It's a rough one. It really is.
It's really something you don't forget like
Well,
that. It's
I'm,
not.
it's the sort of thing. I think essentially that's like they show an entire crime scene walkthrough, the entire video footage.
And let's put it this way: it's a McDonald's, so there are
There,
some kids. There's a
yeah,
10 months old baby with a shotgun slug
yeah.
on the back.
It's not pleasant. But then again, it could be
If you dig
argued
that kind of stuff, it's
something like that shouldn't be pleasant,
yeah.
though, should it? But
Ar-
also, it's something nobody talks about, and it's something that needs to be talked about. People talk about Columbine, they talk about all this other stuff, but
I
this
don't get
really,
why
man,
nobody knows about it. I don't get it because it's a pretty fucking big shooting, bro. I mean,
I think it sounds horrible to say, but pretty much all the victims were Mexican,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think
because it
there's
was a race. It was
was a
a
race thing, yeah.
yeah.
You know, I get a feeling probably a lot of people is just kind of like, let's just forget about it, which is,
But it's a damn well done documentary for real.
yeah, it is.
So
Like I
if you
said,
did that kind of
not an
stuff,
easy watch though.
yeah,
What was that called again?
77 minutes, because that's how long it took the police to get there.
well, to take him out.
Yeah, that man, that's hard, to hear when you think
Yeah,
about it.
like it's pretty fucking graphic. I mean, it took place in a McDonald's during the 80s. So you type on Google McDonald massacre, and the first picture you see is like two boys that got shot on their bicycles, like just by the entrance of the McDonald's. Like
Yeah.
they're just laying there.
It's like, damn, But like I said, it's something that shouldn't be forgotten about.
No, absolutely not.
I see it's on Prime.
Yeah,
But it's on Tubi for free too.
yeah,
Don't pay for it. It's on Tubi.
yeah.
I already have Prime though.
Okay, because if you pay for it, you're essentially paying to get hurt. It's not a good thing.
Yeah, but if you enjoy like true crime, like we do, it's really worth a watch. I mean,
It's fascinating. It
don't
really
watch
is,
it
but
with your kids, bro. Like,
yeah, hell no.
I think your kids are cool and shit. They love horror, but I mean that's some nasty stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole
Uh,
other level.
Yeah. So let's move on to a bit of happier news. Sam Raimi's going to direct a new Doctor Strange movie.
I hope we get that Spider-Verse thing. Really,
Maybe.
since he is doing that. And oh yeah, and that film was supposed to be like horrifying and shit like that.
Oh yeah, they say
what
it's
they were-
very Lovecraftian. It's even called like in the multiverse of madness or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's how it called. That's how it's called.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat, So there's that, and the only other last bit of news I got is this is more for our fans of anime and manga or whatever. There's been a continuation made to the Death Note manga that actually
really?
has,
There's
yes,
a follow-up?
it's a one-shot thing, and it actually has Donald Trump in it.
Okay.
Yep, Donald Trump is gonna buy a Death Note. So there you go.
Is the coronavirus in it too?
Hell, you never know. I could have seen them throwing that in, but yeah. So that's pretty much it news-wise.
Before we move on to what we watched during the week, I gotta ask Rob, are you a fan of extreme horror in general, or do you avoid it? Can you stand it, or?
Not, I mean, generally, I mean, if it's something that's thrown my way, if it's something perhaps might be theme week on body bags, um, I mean, I'm not afraid to, check something out, but I wouldn't say generally I'm not filling my shelves.
Well, extreme horror. I don't mean things like Serbian film, more things like let's just say Aftermath or August Underground or Vomit Gore Trilogy or shit like that. Like nasty fucking stuff.
Now, I'm familiar with it just because I've listened to, the podcast on other podcasts and stuff. I'm familiar with a lot of those titles, but I haven't seen really any of them, I don't think.
Okay. Because there are some pretty fucking good titles, and like we talked for like 2 hours last time, and I was like, I wonder what he thinks about like extreme horror. So I was just curious.
I always think extreme horror is one of those things, it's not for everybody. And
it's good or it's not really.
Where do you guys put a film like Angst?
Angst is extreme horror, I think.
Because that movie's absolutely unreal.
Absolutely, I see it on the same level as I see Man Bites Dog.
Yeah, Angst blew me away. That was.
Yeah. There's some. There we go. Another bit of news. I just remembered this now. Stephen Biro from Unearthed Films has actually said about the new American Guinea Pig that's going to be being made.
It's going to be trash. Because only the first one was good.
I don't know. From considering the picture he's shown, it might be aliens.
American Guinea Pig, and it's. Oh, is he pulling a thing like he did with
I don't know.
Song of Solomon?
No, they did a big thing like asking people what they wanted like for in like the guinea pig series, and one of the big things was like an alien abduction type thing, but with like the gore and everything of American Guinea Pig. So
well, I could see that work. Like you get abducted, and like once you get on that shit, you basically get
no good can come to you.
Yeah.
To this day, though, I will say there's never been an alien abduction movie scarier than Fire in the Sky.
When it comes to I'd say really the Fourth Kind was pretty fucking terrifying.
The Fourth Kind, was scary, but it didn't
have you
have
seen
that.
Rob, have you seen the Fourth Kind?
No, I know the title.
Yeah.
And Fire in the Sky.
That's just got some visceral stuff in it.
The Fourth Kind and that last VHS segment, VHS2 segment too.
That's an awesome segment. It really is. And that's like what alien horror should be.
What do you guys think about Almost Human, that alien?
Almost Human. I don't think I saw that one, honestly.
Guy's abducted, disappears for about a year or so, suddenly shows back up again, starts tearing things up pretty...
was it a made-for-TV film?
No.
No? Oh, I must be wrong, but there was a TV film, made-for-TV film that's pretty much the same thing. Well, alien abduction-wise, you can't go wrong with Extra.
Oh, Extra. I love Extra. Oh, yeah, I've seen the cover, yeah. I need to
yeah, for the listeners who's listening, because he showed us the
Joe Bagos. It's a Joe Bagos film.
Let me just explain. He showed the cover on the Skype chat, so that's why we were like, oh, that's it.
Yeah,
dude, that's a crazy man. I love that movie.
I'm gonna give that one a shot.
I saw that thing pop up like multiple times on Amazon, like in recommended sections and shit.
Yeah.
So let's get it on to the main reviews. What do you think, guys?
Yeah.
A beautiful woman inherits a hotel with a dark and sinister secret. A secret it cannot forget.
Go back to where you came from and hurry.
Despite a series of chilling warnings, she refused to give up on her dream of success.
Either I run this hotel, or I go on relief. 60 years ago, everybody in this hotel disappeared.
This hotel is one of the 7 gateways of hell.
And when this gate of hell is opened, her dream becomes a living nightmare. The poltergeist takes revenge in the acclaimed theatrical thriller, The 7 Doors of Death.
Who's gonna go? Let the guest go first.
Yeah, sure.
As far as what I think, or
No. First of all, you wanna? Well, first of all, we'll give a synopsis. I'll do it, and then you say whatever you want. That's how we work. It's non-edited. You say whatever you want about that film.
Mm.
So, The House by the Cemetery.
Hey, The Beyond.
yeah.
Yeah, true that.
Damn it, Bob is working his way into this one too.
Yeah, Bob fucks everything up.
Yeah,
And like I said, all that Bob dog got me fucked up, bro.
Yep.
So yeah, so from legendary Italian horror master Lucio Fulci comes the ultimate classic of supernatural terror. A cursed hotel, built over one of the 7 gateways to hell, becomes a malevolent abyss that begins devouring both the bodies and the souls of all who enter in a graphic frenzy of gore, crucifixion, brutal chain whippings, eyeball impalements, sulfuric acid meltdowns, flesh-eating tarantulas, throat-shredding demon dogs, and ravenous, bloodthirsty zombies. The Beyond is a towering achievement in hair-raising, mind-bending cinematic terror. So, good shit.
Indeed.
Yeah, pretty much. So, Rob, I mean, I feel like that synopsis didn't do it justice. So let's see how can you pull a synopsis for it out of your pocket like right now?
An absolute complete nightmares tour de force.
That's why I had it written in my notes. We gotta hear each and everyone do a synopsis because it's so like everyone see it differently. So
Yep.
Hell opened up wide open. I mean, I did that movie, man. It's first of all, it's an absolutely gorgeous film. I mean, to look at. I mean, I think all 3 are, but I mean, I think everything, I think everything within this trilogy comes together almost absolutely. No, I think it comes together perfectly. I mean, the continuation of the nightmare logic and just a film that is steeped in, visually is driven. There are scenes that are just. I was thinking today, is it wrong that these movies don't make me gag or don't make me? I mean, there used to be a time when I had a hard time, especially with City. There was a few sequences I just had a hard time with, the spider sequence. I had a hard time with. I don't have a hard time anymore. I mean, I'm just so captivated watching. These images just unfold and just the idea of I think the story fits perfectly right in the middle of these 2 films.
Well, first of all, I don't know about y'all, but like I said, I discovered Fulci pretty young, and I don't think I I watched those films for the scenario or anything. It was just all about that imagery, what was in front of me. It was really just a visual experience to begin with. When I discovered those films,
I couldn't care less about what was going on. It's just oozing with nasty imagery, nasty. You know, there's something going on, but you don't really need to know what's going on because it it flies. It's just so like I would be curious to watch like now we're talking about the Beyond, but as a whole, as a trilogy, I'd be curious to watch those films without any sounds or subtitles just to see how it goes. Because I mean, I remember like being young and
Mm.
like don't really giving a shit about that story or anything, and
So
still
just
enjoying.
as like a purely visual experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be worth trying sometime for sure.
It was
It is experience. I mean,
Mhm.
but it does make sense. I mean, I've never really completely understood how. I guess I kind of get, or people get really lost amidst, the visuals, but I
Mhm.
don't know. It always kind of just flows right. I mean, I always kind of got what was going on to a point, at least. I mean, I think you could watch these movies over and over and over, and still be kind of not perfectly, but it works, man. It works on a level that is just
it
mind
on
bending.
so many levels.
Mhm.
I was, you know, I was reading about it today a little bit, and one thing that I came across that was interesting, visually speaking, Fulci, the whole painting um, of the Beyond, Schweck's painting of the Beyond that plays such a key piece in this film, and how he's got the people laid out there. Um, I didn't realize that Fulci was inspired by the pictures of Pompeii, and how they found a lot of the bodies displayed underneath the
Wow.
ash of that volcano, and found out he was a second unit director on the last days of Pompeii in 1950. So it was kind of it seemed like kind of a interesting tipping of the hat, I guess, to that in terms of visual, where he pulls these things from. But I mean, Lovecraft is a big thing for him,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think what drives me, I mean, maybe maybe more city than even the Beyond, but what he's the only guy that seems like, I say the only guy, but he's one that just seems to really understand how you convey H.P. Lovecraft on, cinematically. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody really, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, there's so much a vault of literature, that could be brought to life. And, it's, you can count how many directors on one hand, Fulci maybe being, I think, the most instrumental of understanding how it is. And it's a lot of this is this nightmare logic.
Mm.
It's funny.
Vi-
I was
but,
rewatching it the other night
but visually or on a narrative perspective?
visually.
Visually, okay.
I mean, I think that's the best way to bring Lovecraft to life. But I mean, you have to have such a command over those visuals and how you lay those visions out. And the music drives it, of course. Frizzy, I mean, it plays such a huge part in this. I lost my thought there. I was going somewhere a second ago. Um,
Lovecraft, you were speaking about
yeah,
Lovecraft.
I mean, Pickman's model. I mean,
Mm.
references this idea of just this annex of hell that is being opened up. And I think that's something that, in one way or another draws the three films together. Um, but his ability, whether it's Pickman's model, whether it's uh, um, Cool Air for, I think, had influenced House,
Mhm.
The Dunwich Horror, the Evil Clergyman. He just had a knack of being able to take what he loved and turn it into something that was just powerfully driven. I mean,
Mm.
Yeah, and something of his own too. I think it's like its own take on those kind of things.
Mm. I think also though, the thing with translating Lovecraft onto film, people tend to think Lovecraftian is one thing. They tend to think it's like, like the tentacles and the creatures from beyond and everything.
Lovecraft is Cthulhu.
Yeah, but there's a whole other side of Lovecraft, which is what Fulci gets, and people
especially the visceral aspect of it, the visceral imagery of it, I think.
This idea that something is just trying to intrude into our world, and you can't stop it.
No.
There's nothing you can do to stop it. In fact, the end of each of these films, I mean, that's the last final exclamation point is, you've done nothing to stop it.
No, all you've done is get yourself killed.
Yeah, pretty much.
And this film probably has maybe the greatest ending, I think, of any horror film ever, hands down.
It is.
It's awesome, but I prefer that ending. When it comes to the trilogy again, ending wise, that's not my favorite. And like, hate me, love me for it, I don't care. But I think the Beyond is the weakest of all three.
Movie or ending?
Both.
Ugh. Yeah. No.
Really, I still love it. I mean, I still love it. I got, like I said, I got that sign tattooed on me, but I just, I don't think it's a blast like House can be or City can be. In no way, really. I mean, it's soothing atmosphere like both of the other films are. It's probably the most atmospheric film, I think. It's like the one that you really get hooked on, that like atmosphere.
Yeah.
But it's the one that I just think it drags by some points, especially in the middle of it. It just what were you about to say, motherfucker?
No, I'm just saying, okay, yeah.
Well, say it. Well, if you disagree, say it.
No,
Rob,
I get it. I get what you're saying about like dragging in the middle a bit, but I mean, it has a guy putting bullets down the barrel of a gun to load it. How can you not love that?
It's I mean, maybe, and that's actually after I watched Zombie, that's the second Fulci film I ever saw, and even back then, I can remember like, don't get me wrong, boys, like I love it, like don't get me wrong, I love it, I still enjoy it, but when I find myself watching House and City way more often than I do with The Beyond. Way more often.
Well, yeah, I get it.
It's got the best score out of of the three, though. What about you? I mean, is Rob, is The Beyond the ultimate Fulci flick, like some people tends to say?
Not for me. I think it warrants having the reputation of being, mechanically the solid one in the middle. But City, man, City blows my freaking mind away. More every time I watch that movie. Yep. That movie, I don't know, just reaches into places in my psyche that rarely new movies do. I love the Beyond. I love the music. I love everything about the Beyond, but there are places in City or Gates that still, even today, I mean, just rewatching it the other night, I mean, there are moments in there that are, whether unnerving or terrifying to me personally still. I mean, I can't think of a scene in the Beyond that is, well, shooting, Jill in the head, towards the end.
Yeah.
I still find myself wanting to glance my eyes away from that whole thing, but I don't know. There's, I mean, I'm trying to think of a scene in Beyond that, the first, Joe the plumber.
Yeah.
And there's interesting scenes, like with Martha. I mean, I don't know. She's like, more than ever, I think she's just devilishly up to something really bad.
Yeah, there's something going on.
I don't.
Oh, absolutely, bro.
When she tells Joe, man, I got these things laid out for you. Just follow these. It's like she's just like, I know where you're going, and so she kind of gets her.
Get fucked.
I thought about her character more than I've ever thought about her character the other night when I was watching that. And the way she looks at him and the way he sort of looks back, and then eventually he has his way with her. I thought, you had that coming.
Yeah.
It's like she knew she was sending him to his doom. And, man, when that hand comes flying out of that wall, I mean, I know the first time Sam watched it, he leapt right off the couch. And I'm a little removed from that, but it still jerks me. I mean, it's almost, and not to get off topic by any stretch, but in Texas too, when Leatherface just pops out of nowhere with the chainsaw, I mean, I still jerk out of my seat. And when Joe's standing there by the wall, chipping away, and all of a sudden, that hand comes out.
Yeah.
Dude, that scene, man, is a pretty good scene.
My scene when it comes to the Beyond, the one scene I love so much is the bath scene. It's so nasty when she like takes like chunks of dead air like out of the drain and shit, and like the water slowly drops. Bro, that's amazing.
I take back what I said about not finding anywhere to gag, because I don't know. That scene did actually make me, I don't know, something about pulling that hair up out of the water. And
yeah, dead people air like out of the drain. There's actually a corpse in there. That's amazing, bro.
But man, it's like when that water starts to lower and that music kicks in and that sense of dread kicks in, that, man,
that's beautiful, bro.
I love it, man, because I love it when, and that's the thing that Fulci does so good. And it's like I don't want to jump the house, but my wife was watching that the end with me the other night. She got so aggravated when what's his name just kind of stood there and Freudstein just sort of towered over him and he wouldn't do anything. I'm like, people get caught in fear and they can't move. They're paralyzed. And I love how Fulci can do that, even in the Beyond, where people, whether he forcefully puts someone in that position where they can't move, like the spider sequence, there's nothing that guy can do.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the kind of scene. That's the kind of scene too. We'll talk more about it when we get to your house. But there are a couple jump scares done fucking well in House, I think. The bat scene is done well. The bat scene is done pretty fucking well when they go down in the basement. Well, we'll keep it for when we get to.
Did you guys catch? Did you guys catch? I think the first time I ever really caught this on rewatching Beyond. When Schweck at the very beginning, that beautiful tinted scene, that opening scene, when he's being tortured, he makes the point. He says that entire town is built
on
not just the hotel, it's the whole freaking town. So I mean, it makes sense like now that when they go down through the basement towards the end, or I mean, when they go down the stairs in the hospital and they come out the basement back in the hotel, that whole town, man, it's like a portaway.
It's like a straight portaway to hell, if you will.
Yeah, I mean the whole town is on it. I mean the whole town's part of it, but I mean that whole town is sitting on it, and the whole
And
thing
I love the thing that was the point that I was about to give though, and I'm glad you bring it up because the fact that the whole town is like on top of it, I think everyone is kind of strange, if you will.
Yeah.
Everyone seems odd.
Yeah.
Don't you think, Rob?
like I mean, give an example. We mean
Well, everything seems odd, like from the get go. Like well, maybe it's just bad acting, but that dude that is like doing some paint on the house, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm doing that," and she said, "Oh, see you later." And he's like, "That's the worst line of the film." He's like, "Bye." He felt to his death.
yeah, that's pretty that's pretty weak. There's not many moments that are weak by any stretch of the
Yeah,
way.
but everyone is hot. That's why I think it works even better. Everyone is hot, so like given the fact that maybe that whole town is built on top of some giant fucking door to hell makes it more believable. Like that straight up dude that bye. That dude must be possessed or something, bro. No one act like this.
Yep.
Which begs just you know, what really is the purpose with as Emily, her that character? It seems like she's there for some good to drive
Yeah, I get, yeah.
Katrina's character out of there. Is it her? She Lucy in this one?
Yeah, yeah. Um, God damn. Now that we're talking about it, we'll need some editing. But now that we're talking about it, I can remember. Fuck.
Yeah. But still, I mean, you know, I mean, it's the foreboding nature of this thing that is been opened up. This call it the portal or gateway to hell. Exactly. I mean, I think that's an interesting question too, and it's exactly what begins it, what starts it. I mean, we know you got the whole prologue with Shrek and everything, but when she comes into the hotel and begins to open this thing up, you know, I've always been kind of curious, what exactly triggers? Is it just her coming into the hotel? Is
Yeah.
it just her?
What's beyond it? I think that's why it's called a beyond. What's beyond it? What is there to trigger that thing, if you will? There must be something, an all-powerful entity, if you will. Like,
I wonder whether it's just
All
always
of it.
been going on. And it's just, you know, now there's someone there to see it.
I mean, I feel like even from the get-go, even if you start with the Beyond or City or whatever else, you kind of wonder what's behind all that. Like, what's beyond those doors, you know?
Yeah.
Like, who's pulling the strings? Am I the only one that feel this way?
I kind of think it's scarier to think that no one's pulling the strings.
What about you, Rob?
It's just chaos.
That's where, I mean, this one is definitely more harder to really ascertain that than even City. City seems pretty. I mean, we'll get into that, but I mean,
City's pretty straightforward.
I think I think so. This one, there's a lot of ambiguity with exactly what's happening. I mean, aside from you know, you have the sin that's committed against Shrek at the beginning, as you know, and he'll become an antagonist, I guess. But even how much of a role is he actually playing in something that's much greater? Maybe that gets to the heart of Lovecraft in terms of this cosmic idea of fear and something beyond our ability to grasp has been triggered and opened, and there's nothing that's going to stop it. And these characters are just kind of getting sucked in, and they can't escape. It's like a black hole. They're just swirling down into it, and there's nothing they can do to escape it at all.
Yeah, I see that.
And oh God, the call beyond a purgatory. I think it's worse than purgatory. I mean, there's no matter where they look forward, they look back, they look forward, they look back. They're looking at the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's endless, yet it's not endless.
Yeah.
When it comes to that's actually my favorite scene in the whole film. Beside the bathtub scene, is the acid melting face scene. Can you explain how the fuck did this happen, bro?
I just want to know what they thought. It's like, okay, like we're gonna kill this guy, like he's like a warlock or whatever.
Not only that, like it's a mortuary, it's a morgue. Like, why the fuck do you have like a big jar of acid like on top of a shelf?
I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it's part of Fulci sits there and he thinks, I got certain scenes I need to do, and so where do we integrate these scenes in and then allow them to flow as best? It's just this.
Yeah, but it don't make sense. I mean, one scene she's like standing up and she's like, she's watching the corpse. The next scene, like that little girl like just enters and she's like laying on the ground with like plenty of acid like dripping on her face.
Well, you know what? It makes sense in the sense that this is Joe's wife, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so there's the connection of what happens to Joe, and Joe's already in there, and then she being his wife is drawn in, and maybe there's the connection.
Yeah, absolutely, but why though?
Why is this
I mean, does it had anything to the story or the narrative? Not at all.
Cannon fodder.
Maybe just in the idea that anyone and everyone, the people who are closest to the edge of the whirlpool are going to get sucked in first, and everyone else behind them. In terms of this,
yeah,
and
maybe
they're pretty close.
Yeah,
look at the guy with the spider attack. I mean, he's going to the library to ascertain information about the hotel, and so he suffers that attack. Anyone who begins to put themselves in a position of working against.
Yeah, but that makes sense. Cause he's actually like investigating what's going on, if you will. But I don't think that, even if it's one of my favorite scenes in the film, I don't think it's actually relevant to the story at all, bro. It's just gore for the matter of showing gore. But I love that. But it's just doesn't add anything whatsoever.
I think probably the producers said to Fulci, yeah, we need a few more deaths in this movie. He's like, okay.
But am I the only one that feel this way? Like it's that scene is completely it's enjoyable, but it's pretty useless.
I wonder how much of it has to do with the editing.
Yeah, that could
be. And that scene in particular. Because it does seem not misplaced in the sense, it does feel a bit awkward.
Yeah.
Because it just suddenly, boom, it's happening. But then again, I think the only thing you can draw on is Joe. Joe has already been taken. He's in there. It's his wife. She's there. She's next. I mean, these things are working on a spiritual level of malevolency that they are controlling things, and they're working, even though you can't see them working, they're working.
Maybe it kind of works like in The Grudge. The idea that once you're exposed to something, like it's gonna consume you and everything around you.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
That makes sense when you think about it, though.
So there we go. The Grudge is actually a Fulci film.
But
now we know.
It kind of makes sense when you think about it. Maybe if you're exposed to, well, if you're in the range of where the gates have opened and shit, or
Mhm.
yeah,
Well,
maybe.
to what BDG said, I mean, there is that whole notion that if Fulci would have had his way, there wouldn't have been really any zombies in there anyways. But because that German production or the distribution company
Yeah, they were the
was
one
going
who
to
was
wanted
pushing it.
zombies,
Yeah.
they had no choice, and so it does beg the question: how much more of the
What's the
film?
name of that company though? It's Lem something. Is it Can anyone remember it? It's
Low
what?
zombie.
I can't remember it, but still. I mean, it's an enjoyable film, but it's really like, especially in the middle, like pacing issues. Really, I think it kind of drags. Like I said, don't hate me for it. I still love it. I'm just not a big, huge fan, and I'd say, um, tattoo knowledge time. I got it tattooed on my arm because I was
Yep.
like, oh, the Beyond is the ultimate Fulci flicks. And I so don't feel that way now. Really, I still enjoy it, but it's
Okay, so
like
Fulci wise, what tattoo would you get now?
uh House. Really, like I said in the group chat,
Mhm.
House by the Cemetery is now my favorite one.
Oh, that's so painful to hear.
Fuck, bro, that's coming from someone who loves that Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, I know.
Fuck out of here.
We'll get into it when we get into House, obviously. But yeah.
And before we move on to the next one, we gotta go into general thoughts. Did you guys watch it on Blu-ray? Which version did you see? Which edition did you see? How did you watch? How do you usually watch this film? And how did you watch it for this show?
Okay. Well, I'll go first, I guess. I watched the Grindhouse Blu-ray, and it's just the standard like cut of the movie. Um, though I do got to say there are color versions of the opening, which are kind of cool. But I prefer the like sepia bleached looking
Yeah,
tone. I think it just kind of works. All in all, like presentation wise, really solid release, and yeah, can't go wrong with it.
when you got this slip.
Oh yeah, I got the slip too.
You don't know the story about that, Rob, but I ordered when it came out, I ordered it on Amazon. The Grindhouse releasing release with the slip. I hate that color, but still, it's the slip, and the soundtrack and shit. I got that DVD, that Blu-ray, like in perfect shape with the CD, no sleep, no sleeve whatsoever, no slip. That was pretty painful.
Well,
But
especially considering they're not out of stock, like they're not out of print or anything. So
yeah. What about you, Rob? How do you watch The Beyond?
Well, it's funny. I was just thinking to myself, well, I got the Grindhouse, and so that's the only copy I have is the Grindhouse, the new one that came with the book, the soundtrack, the whole,
yeah.
that beautiful, absolutely beautiful edition. But
Yeah, fuck you, bro, because I don't have the whole thing.
I was thinking, I mean, it just seems like it wasn't that long ago when getting a copy of the Beyond was actually pretty difficult until Grindhouse came out with that new release. And it's amazing, I think of just a handful of movies I have in my collection now, and I'm thinking there was a point not that long ago you couldn't even find those movies. And I mean, and I don't know why, but it seemed like The Beyond was one of those movies that I was really sought after trying to get my hands on desperately. I remember one time I actually was in such a mood. I don't know what it was. I was in such a mood to watch that movie. I went to YouTube and I actually searched it up on YouTube. And for the moment, there was a copy on YouTube, and I watched it just to get the stupid thing out of my system. I watched it. The next time I went and looked for it, of course, it was gone. It wasn't there anymore. But then, boom, that Grindhouse came out with that release, and there, now I have it in my collection, and I can. But I would love to have a nice.
I can jerk off to it.
Didn't Anchor Bay put out the VHS? That I'm sure it was a sweet VHS at the time.
Yeah, I got the hard clam box for it.
It's beautiful.
Damn you!
I got all three of them.
That's
like,
beautiful.
Got the whole
That's beautiful.
Days of El Trilogy on VHS. That Lucio Fulci special edition of The Beyond City and House.
I just have City on VHS. And,
So when's the last time you watched Beyond on VHS?
Last week.
Okay.
Like I said in the beginning of the show, when it comes to those films, I always watch those VHS. It's how I grew up. I mean, I was renting them, and that's how I was watching them. So nowadays, I just can't watch. Like, don't get me wrong. I watched the Blue Underground special edition DVD of City Afterward. The Beyond Grindhouse releasing without the slip because of whatever reason. And I watched House, the Blue Underground original release afterwards. But when it comes to, I just love to I'm just like putting like City of the Living Dead first. I'm ejecting that VHS. I'm putting the Beyond after it. And House after it, and afterward I'll watch them on Blu-ray. But if you can come across those Anchor Bay releases, they are pretty fucking sweet for real.
Yeah, they are.
So yeah, overall thoughts before we move on to you want to do House or City next? I do City.
Okay.
What about you, Rob? You down for City?
Sure.
All right. So, like I said, how we rank films here is like overall enjoyment out of 10, rewatchability out of 10, and buy or rent. Do you want to go first, or we do?
Sure, definitely buy. You got to have this film. You got to have it. This the entire trilogy. You got to have the trilogy. I mean, it is. I think it's the definitive horror trilogy.
Oh no, but we're talking about one film, just The Beyond.
Right. Yeah, you got to have it. Buy. Enjoyability. I next to the other ones, I'd probably put it at least a strong. It's an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And rewatchability factor?
High. What do you use?
No, rewatchability factor. What are you? Out of 10.
Oh, 8. It's 7. Nah, it's 7 probably. I don't put it in that often.
All right. For me, it's a buy for sure. It's a buy. Enjoyment factor, it's an 9.5 out of 10. Rewatchability, I'd say it's 6.5.
That's pretty close to mine as well. Definitely a buy. I give it a 9 for like enjoyability, and for rewatchability, I give it a 7.
So overall, if we can, yeah, not really. We're close to a gold medal there, but not really.
Yeah, it's at least for me, it's second place. It's a silver medal. Let's say that.
It's enjoyable, but I mean, and especially like we don't. I know we got some listeners, like at least 10 to 15, but does everyone have seen them? I don't know, so we can't really like go down into spoiler territory. So I'm just kind of laying back on that. But maybe I shouldn't and just go ahead and like, oh, that movie's about that. Watch it. It's good.
Well, honestly, anyone who's listening to this podcast has more than likely seen the Gates of Hell trilogy, and if they haven't,
Fuck off.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, you got some catching up to do on your education.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So, and last thing, when it comes to like we ranked, like I told you, like that's my least favorite. Um, Rob, is it your out of three, out of the whole trilogy, is it your first, second, or third favorite?
Second.
Second. All right. What about you, BDG? That's my
Same
third.
here. It's my second as well.
Second. That's my third favorite.
From the mists of infinity, they come, rising from the cold, damp earth to take what is now theirs.
My God, the damn thing's moving!
When the moon turns red, the dead shall rise and walk the earth. From the gates of hell, they have finally come. The gates of hell. No one under 17 admitted without parent or certified adult guardian.
So let's move on to motherfucking City of the motherfucking vomiting, all vomit-inducing, flesh-eating machines, if you will. I don't even know what this film is, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Pretty much. That pretty much sums it up.
So
Awesome is incarnate.
who's gonna go for the synopsis? Am I going?
Go for it.
All right. The 7 gates of hell have been torn open, and in 3 days the dead shall rise and walk the earth. As a reporter, Christopher George, pieces, and of Psychic, Catriona McCall of the Beyond race to close the portals of the damned. They encounter a feeding nightmare of unspeakable evil. This city is alive with the horrors of the living dead. Yeah, the city is alive with like 3 zombies.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing I always find with City of the Living Dead, though, is until like the end, there aren't really zombies.
It's so awesome, bro. That ending scene with the priest catching fire, and like even before it, when all of those like zombies are like just slowly walking, it's so beautiful, bro. I love those shots.
And we have to bring up just the fact that Fulci does some of the best zombies, just like from like a look perspective.
Oh, absolutely.
They just look
awesome. Look at Zombie 3. I mean, Bruto Mattei, like just finished it, but bro, you can definitely see that Fulci thing in there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Rob, you want to go ahead or?
Yeah, this movie is. This movie might be one of the greatest horror films I think I've ever seen in my entire life. Even to this day, rewatching this film just grows on me. From we talked about the Beyond in that one scene that just, for whatever reason, feels like it doesn't make quite sense. There's nothing in this movie that doesn't make sense. I mean, everything flows, even if you have a hard time.
There are some things that doesn't make sense. Like, excuse me, bro, but like, she seems to have died of a heart attack. She literally threw up her whole stomach on the floor. I mean, tell me, how does that make sense, bro?
How does it make sense that she pukes her insides out?
Yeah, and the people who actually like shows up and see that and says to each other, "Oh, she evidently died of a heart attack." She threw up her intestines out. Don't tell me that makes sense.
Explosive heart disease.
There you go.
Yeah. That's what it is.
No, but come on, bro. I mean, don't tell me everything makes sense, because it.
Well, I think it makes sense. I think in the sense that
how
with the priest,
someone who's investigating that scene, who's like, what happened? How did it happen? Oh, must be a heart attack. There are like literally guts on the floor. Like it's not a heart attack, bro.
No. But I think you could look at the whole scope of the film and say everything seems to make sense in the sense that the minute that priest hangs himself, that whole place begins to be turned inside out. Even when you see when Bob, when he has his vision of the priest hanging there, I think that drives him to the drill bit scene. I mean, everything is being worked out by something, some force.
Yeah. Bob is a returning character, by the way, because Housed by the Cemetery, Bob grew up to be the Bob from City of the Living Dead.
That's messed up.
That actually kind of blows my mind, because if that was true, that would be kind of awesome. And it would actually make it make sense, and I'd be happy that he got drilled.
Still fuck Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Real. But yeah, I really don't. You were saying, what were you saying? I said it doesn't make sense.
You're always gonna find these little tiny things.
But don't say I'm not right, because it's so not. There's no logic to it.
But see, usually though, when people approach this film and say, "Well, it's completely illogical. I can't stand it. I hate it. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense."
I don't hate it.
No. What I'm saying is generally the general public, somebody who's new to Fulci, somebody who's new to this sort of idea, it doesn't drive well, so they don't get the whole thing. But I think the whole thing does flow really nice, and it does make sense. I mean, from the moment, obviously you're looking at someone and you're making a call. Well, died of a heart attack, whatever. I just think, generally speaking, the vibe of this film, everything, from the minute she dies actually of fright, heart attack. I'm talking about Katrina McCall's character in the seance. When she dies, it's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting how she just dies in the midst of that seance, but she'll wake up in the coffin, and yet she hasn't been embalmed or anything, right?
Yeah, but that still doesn't make sense.
That she's died and she's been moved to a coffin and she hasn't been embalmed or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just no, I mean, everything in this movie is just,
she's
from the
Jewish.
minute that seance hits, in conjunction with the priest, I think all the rules are thrown out. All of them. I mean, right from the beginning to the very conclusion of the film.
Maybe her character
it begins
was
with her
Jewish.
screaming. It ends with her screaming.
Hey, bro, like I said, it's my second favorite. I love that film. But she's like, how? like you know that scene, like when she's like just waking up in that coffin and she's like scraping up the coffin and she's like screaming and screaming and that dude's like, am I hearing something? Nah, better walk off. Am I hearing something? Nah, better walk off. That drags for like 10 minutes or so.
I don't know. I like how that scene unfolds because if you look
And
at
bro,
him,
like just
think about it.
smashing that coffin with a big pickaxe, bro. That's so. If she's not dead,
Like she will be after you're done.
I mean, if you're standing in a cemetery and you think you hear something, but you're thinking to yourself, there is absolutely no way I'm hearing this. But you think you're hearing it, and you keep. I don't know. I think it just works. Now, yeah, throwing the pickaxe.
You would act like that. You would hear some screams, stand in the same position, and take like 3 or 4 steps forward, then look backward, then do the same thing every 3 seconds you hear a scream, then grab a fucking big ass fucking pickaxe and just go all the way on the top of it where the head is supposed to be.
Oh, well, then you know he was trying to make her stop screaming now, wasn't she?
Know
like,
your place. Know your place.
I wonder if
I just Rob, for real, I just don't get how you can say it makes sense.
Well, I got an idea here. Let's take the same thing that's in the Beyond. The entire town is like the gate. So maybe, it's like she died of a heart attack because unconsciously they're covering stuff up. Because the evil is driving them.
Maybe, but still, I mean, when you follow the narrative, bro, you don't know that stuff till pretty much the end, especially since it's supposed to be the first entry. So I don't get how it can make sense.
I don't know. Did you just take us to the bathroom?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
taking it.
Okay. I'll just be glad. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, didn't need to see that.
Here's something to think about. You guys listening?
Yep.
You know, when you look at what possibly is the greatest influence on this film, specifically looking at Lovecraft, and you think about the evil clergyman, what's really fascinating about that story is that it wasn't even written as a structured narrative to begin with. Lovecraft had a dream one night and decided, as he's writing a letter off to his friend, to include that dream. It isn't until Lovecraft dies and Dyer, I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who was in charge of his estate or took charge of his estate, when he started going through all his stuff and his letters, when he came across that, of course, he decided to submit that as a story and called it The Evil Clergyman. But it wasn't actually even a structured narrative to begin with. It was a dream that H.P. Lovecraft had, and therefore it makes me wonder if when Fulci's looking at this, going, you know what? Well, then there's my film. There is no structure. There is no real narrative other than you have the force of these images and the power of these images, and we're just gonna kind of let it, in a Lovecraftian way.
Absolutely, I get what you mean, but like in a viewer point of view, it's really complete nonsense.
Not if you look at it from the point of view of it being just a nightmare.
Yeah.
What do you think, BDG?
I think, yeah, if you take it at nightmare logic, everything makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no limit to. I mean, you can excuse so much things saying it's a nightmare. I mean, I could say, well, the seed of Chucky is just a nightmare, and you don't know it's awesome. You know, from a nightmare standpoint, you can say Jaws 4 is good, but it's not really implied that it's a nightmare.
No, I don't mean like a literal nightmare. I mean like the nightmare logic. You know when you're having a nightmare and like everything what you're doing makes sense, even though if you actually think about it, it doesn't. Kind of works like that, I think.
But I mean,
Yeah, and the other thing to think about too is for Fulci, I mean, and Sacchetti. If you listen to Sacchetti, I mean, he'll argue that one of their driving influence as well was actually, of all things, it's going to sound crazy, but it was actually the apocalypse itself. And so they were actually tapping into the Book of
like
Revelation in terms of
like Judgment Day, the end of the world.
this is the apocalypse, and when the apocalypse begins, man, I'm telling you, anything and everything, throw it out the window. It's not going to make sense. It's going to be nightmarish. I mean, right from the beginning, when you
Absolutely,
see,
it's like
when you meet
like
Bob,
Judgment Day. You can't do shit about it. It's gonna happen the way it's gonna happen. It's like Judgment Day.
I mean, you look at Bob, and that's I mentioned this the other day.
Bob is Judgment Day. From a house.
There you go.
What is it? The first time you meet Bob, as crazy. I mean, as his character is, he's got this foreboding look on his face, like something really, really bad I can't understand is happening here. And that's who we get introduced to first, is him. Of all the characters in this movie, he's really the first one in Dunwich that we meet. And then, of course, we follow him into the house. And what's this first thing he's going to do is, throw up a blow-up doll. And then he looks off to the side. There's this decayed baby.
Yeah.
There's some twisted imagery going on here. And, some of it, I mean, it's just, it's death. It's the end of the world. It's the apocalypse. It's the nature of just anything that is nightmarish. Everything is being upended in a really crazy fashion. I mean, I think when the dad there puts Bob through the drill, he's being compelled by whatever this force is that is just descending on Dunwich. Everything is being manipulated.
Yeah.
Now I know Fulci made a point that said that drill bit scene was, his anti-fascist statement. But I mean, I think you can fit it into the whole nightmare logic thing and just, allow.
Well, might as well fit the old trilogy in a nightmare world, if you will.
Well, it is, especially how
every single film has that kind of thing going on for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only ending that really, well, I mean, I guess it depends on what version, but I mean, the version that I have of City, I mean, the whole thing just fractures apart. It's the end. It's done. But the other two films, it's just sort of endless meandering into whatever. I mean, even House ends in a loop. Well, you can see it as a loop effect. They walk down.
I tend to see, like, let me put it this way. How I tend to see it is City of the Living Dead. I'd see it more as the third chapter, the closing thing to it. Like, the priest is dead. The priest was some kind of demon that was haunting some people and like just opening gates all over the place. That's how I tend to see it.
Okay.
How do you see the priest though? Because I think there's
well, priest. I love to think. I know it's not, but I really enjoy to think that the priest is actually like a demon just there to, just to look over, to make sure that everything goes as planned when it comes to Gates of Hell. Like, how can I say it? I love to see the priest as a supernatural force, as a demon, someone that look over, like I said, the Gates of Hell. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but
So he's evil right from the beginning.
yep.
Which is emphasizes the whole fear factor. Well, in the original.
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Here in the
Yeah.
City of the Living Dead.
Mhm.
What do you think, BDG?
I always saw the priest as literally a key. He kicks it off. I think he was just a priest. I think essentially he was in that town and he was driven mad by something we never see and we don't need to see. But his suicide
don't see, absolutely.
works as the key in the lock,
Oh yeah, but like from the get go, what I was saying, like from the get go, like it's a priest that actually like saw something that no one did before,
Yeah.
and that's what caused him to commit suicide, and he became like a servant of hell, if you will.
Yeah, I see that.
So in the sense that maybe
the gate is open and just to draw people to it, kind of like you can even like well, I'll wait till we get to House, but like I love to think that the priest had something to do with the event in House. Like he was looking over that and he convinced Frudstein and shit to do some stuff and some research and like some I'll talk more about it when we get to House, but I love to think that
perhaps the just the idea that maybe this priest fully in, because there's two pastors. Well, there's the priest and then there's that pastor that gives the directions to them on their way to Dunwich, who almost has this.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, absolutely, and I think he is as evil as the main priest, if you will. He's just like maybe some different incarnation, or just
he's just too weak. He can't. He knows he can't. He doesn't have the wherewithal within him to do what he ought to be doing, and so he buckles and he just lets him go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Where this other priest, maybe perhaps, like you guys said, he completely anticipates the apocalypse and just completely bails. I mean, you look at his eyes. I mean, you notice how often, in all his movies really, but in this movie, whether it's the priest's eyes.
Well, all three of those films are pretty eye focused. The look at House, bro, that's eye focused, that shit, bro.
I mean, you look at his eyes, man. I mean, even in the beginning moments when he's just walking through the cemetery, he has this look in his eyes like he is carrying the absolute weight of something, and he can't. He just can't cope.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a priest that maybe like like tried some dark magic or some hell, maybe he played Ouija board, whatever you want, bro. But like he's got like he saw something that made him commit suicide, and like Fulci like studied Christianity like fucking deep, so. And suicide is a sin, so maybe he ended up in hell and he's like just there, like kind of a demon vessel, like just to draw people to those specific like locations, or
I don't know. Maybe I'm just too. Maybe I'm overthinking, but I love
No,
to.
I don't think you can overthink this movie. Actually, I think that's what makes it so freaking awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious though, guys. Is there one moment in this movie that actually like really? I mean, terrifies is a weird word to use at our age and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, when
At
that
our age, 23, bro.
when that mortician, after he takes the necklace off that girl, and then he
Yeah.
moves to the old lady, and
Oh
you don't
yeah.
see a freaking thing, man, but you hear it, and she
Yeah.
knocks that big pink chunk right out of his freaking arm. Dude,
Oh,
that scene,
yeah.
man, is freaking awesome.
Oh
Yeah.
hell yeah.
I think it's all God bless that editing, I think. For real. The way it's edited, I think it works well. For real.
Yeah.
Dude, that old lady's terrifying, man. When you don't even see her look terrifying, you just hear it.
Yeah. I
And
think
I
that's
guess
just it. You can imagine what's going on in there, and it's 10 times worse than whatever they're going to show you.
Oh, how about
It's-
when
When it comes to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, you can jump on this. John's when his parents are killed by his sister.
John, bro, that's
Dude,
the
all you
worst.
see is the blood coming from the ceiling.
Yeah.
There is something unsettling in that. I
Oh
can't remember.
yeah.
Bro, that girl that I can't remember her name, but that girl that John sees through the windows and shit, bro.
His
She's the
sister,
most terrifying. Yeah, she's the most terrifying thing in that film, bro. That makeup is on point, I think.
Mm. Definitely.
John, who would name?
Hey there, John.
It's great, man, because they come to the house to not just get him, but to see what he's talking about. You never go in the room with them, but you can just imagine whatever it is, man.
Oh yeah, it's got to be
It's
horrible.
not good.
No.
And I love it, man. When a scene can unfold in a way that doesn't have to show you a thing,
Yeah.
and you're almost glad you didn't see it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
One thing I gotta bring up though is even your son bringing up like earlier when we were just talking before the podcast, that whole like back of the head grabbing stuff, like why does it have to be like the back of the head thing, like like
It's
it looks
easier to
good.
get to the brain.
Well,
Well,
man. It's just so. I mean,
I think it was a cheap effect,
two
and
3 kills done that
Yeah.
way. I think.
I think it was a cheap effect, but it was visceral enough that
Yeah.
You throw that in, you're still kind of like, oh. Every time you see it, you're still kind of like, ooh. But it was probably cheaper to buy some cow's brains or whatever than it was to make a special effect appliance. So just stick it like in a balloon on the back of someone's head or whatever, and just let them crush it.
And City of the Living Dead, I think is out of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that I can let's say well you invite some friends over, you get a couple of beers and shit. I think that's the film to introduce him to Lucio Fulci all the way before New York Ripper or even Zombie. I think City of the Living Dead is just a blast from go to end.
Oh yeah, and it's the thing, if you can sit through City of the Living Dead, you can sit through any Fulci movie. Just due to that scene with
well,
the intestines and
Fulci
everything.
horror film, because Fulci
Yeah.
did some fucking Western trash.
Yeah.
So what about you, Rob? Is that something like, let's say you would have, well, like I said, like I'm a baby gangster, bro. I'm like 23 years old, so. But if you had to like introduce someone to Fulci, would it be like your main feature? For me, it is.
Yeah, I think so because it's the one that I think I get the most stoked up for. I think this movie for me, I would have the most fun. I think showing it to someone
Mm.
for sure, and definitely. I mean, this movie, man, from the beginning, Fabio Frizzi's score in this movie.
A1, A1 score.
I mean, it is. I mean, it
And
just.
it's frizzy, bro. It's frizzy. You can't go wrong.
Yep.
I mean, right from the very, very, very opening frame, and I think too when they're down under the crypt, under the graveyard, when his score kicks in and the dead start to come to life and under that is amazing. That is
Oh,
just.
but those set pieces too. By the end, when like you said, when the dead comes to life and like rises up and shit, and bro, the props to the light guy, bro. I mean, it's so like you can clearly see like the shadows, and it's so well fucking made, bro. It's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that ought to be too. I mean, because not only are you talking about Gino De Rossi, but when you talk about this whole trilogy, it's amazing that looking over every film in this trilogy, you basically got the same group of people working together. I mean, whether it's Sacchetti in the screenplay or Frizzi's musics, the Savaldi and his and the cinematography, De Rossi and the special effects or the makeup, Tomasi editing. I mean,
Yep. Even if it's like some, you know, if it's some people that like, even if it's the same people that work with each other, like film by film. When you look at a film like how can I put it? Oh, okay. It's a basic yet simple example, but like just look at Halloween 1 and Halloween 2. Like they flow perfectly together, I think. But you can still see the technical difference, the way it was shot, the way it was lighted and shit. But with those two films, especially The Beyond and City, you don't see that, and that's what I love so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. Some of the people working there, they've worked with like Fellini and like tons of like really
Yeah.
high-end Italian productions and everything. So they're complete professionals, and they give a damn good product. And as a result, you get a movie that looks damn good.
It looks and feels good too. There's like we said on the group conversation, that's probably the City of the Living that is probably the one that oozes the most with atmosphere. It oozes atmosphere.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh
From
yeah,
the,
even
the
with the old lady.
like the everything is oozing with atmosphere.
How about when the old lady, man, shows up on the kitchen floor in the house?
Oh yeah.
And then she's gone, and then they hear her upstairs.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Again, you don't see.
Oh, you don't need to see to
You just
have,
want to get the freaking
right.
crap out of that house is what you want to do.
Absolutely. You don't need to see to have that sense of dread, bro.
And
Yeah.
see, there's a beautiful balance that Fulci does in this movie in the sense of creating moments when you don't have to see a dang thing, but then other moments when he puts your face right up to it and says, "No, you will watch."
Yeah.
Whether it's this girl puking up her entire insides or poor Bob having his head put through a drill bit, man. That's maybe one of the greatest
Mm.
Facts. That thing is insane, man.
The thing with that effect is most effects that I watch, I can kind of guess how they did it. I can't really figure out how they did that. I don't know. But it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, obviously they had one on one side, one on the other, and but the drill was matched up, so it was turning at the same speed and everything. It just worked.
But I mean, it works. Like, you don't even have to see the whole thing for it. That's where you kind of see if it's well done or not. You don't have to know what came before it or after it during the film. You just have to see that scene by itself, and it's well done and it works.
Oh yeah.
Just look at their clip, and it works. You don't need anything else. It works so well.
Yeah.
That you don't need shit to back it up or after it. You don't need anything. It works good for what it is.
Yeah.
If it was short film, a 2-minute short film of a guy grabbing a guy and drill up his fucking head, it would work.
It would, yeah. I could totally see someone taking that scene and editing it into like a fake snuff film, and it would work.
Like you could at most like just shoot like grab a VHS camera, if you will, and shoot that scene like close up on your TV and go on the dark web and try and sell it. if someone out there hadn't seen it, he's probably gonna say, "Oh yeah, bro, I'll give you $200 for it because it's pretty good shit," Because it's so well.
You make a whole career just filming Fulci stuff off of the TV and the VHS camera.
When it comes to like atmosphere, set pieces, like I said, atmosphere, set pieces, props design, everything, it oozes atmosphere. Even more than Zombie. Zombie is one of my Zombie Flesh Eater, for the listener. The Lucio Fulci film. It's one of my all-time favorite film. It's actually my number 5, but I think City of the Living Dead just oozes with that nasty, like that fog that you don't know what's going on. There's something behind it, even if you don't see it. It's just it oozes evil. It's really something, I think.
Yeah.
Fulci's masterpiece?
I would say so.
For me, I'd say Zombie. Like I said, Zombie's one of the. Well, it's the first Fulci film I saw, so maybe that's why it's in my top 5 of all time horror movies. But and like I said, I prefer House to City and the Beyond. But I mean, City, bro. City is so. I mean, City is just like you rent a film that's named City of the Living Dead, and you pretty much have
exactly what you
everything going for it, except City, an actual City of the Living Dead, because you don't have that. But
yeah,
when it comes to like,
it's Fulci's Black Sunday,
and
yeah,
it's kind of weird to say, but I might be the only one that says that I I still stand by that, because I was thinking like years ago that was a feeling that I had, and yeah, I still have that feeling going on for that film. There's like a Hammer gothic vibe to it.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely has like that gothic feel, yeah.
What do you think, Rob?
Yeah. For me, it's funny because this movie first, like I said earlier, this movie first put fear into me. I hadn't even seen the movie. I'm just listening to the radio spot late at night, come across the radio, because back in those days, that's how you usually got your trailers, was through radio spots. And when that radio spot kicked in, my imagination starts rolling. What the freaking crap is it? What is this? And then the first time I see it, I'm like, what the freaking?
Do you have that? Do you when you watch it? Do you have that like goth hammer feel to it?
The atmosphere, like you said, it just oozes out in a way. The only other movie that is as rich atmospherically, I think, is Mario Bava's Black Sunday. That movie is so atmospheric, but in a totally different way.
Yeah.
This movie, man, is in a really terrifying.
Well,
if this is how the end of the world is going to start, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Well, atmosphere-wise, I must intervene when it comes to. Are we talking just like 80s, 70s films, or modern too? When it comes to atmosphere?
Either.
Yeah.
I'd say We Are Still Here.
Yeah, that's good.
We Are Still Here is oozing atmosphere. I'd say what else is oozing with atmosphere? Wicker Man, the original, is oozing with atmosphere. When it comes to Alien is oozing with atmosphere, literally too. Atmosphere just plays such a big part in filmmaking. Really,
it's funny. You mentioned Alien. Alien is this notion that you're stuck within the framework of the ship and you can't get out. And yet in City of the Living Dead, you're stuck within the context of this nightmare that's unfolding and you can't escape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so he manages in a way. You could say, well, it's easy just to put somebody in a place and, well, you can't get out. And it's not that easy, because Ridley Scott's Alien is a masterpiece, I think, of filmmaking. But to be able to do it on a scope like Fulci does with this film, and just force you into this nightmare scenario that just is almost as restrictive as being stuck on a ship that you can't get out of, because there's this alien entity that's going to hunt you down and kill you, and there's nothing you can do. It's just amazing. It's amazing to see.
Absolutely, bro. When I look at City of the Living Dead, again, it may seem weird to some of the listeners out there, but if you don't like it, fuck off. But still, I'm gonna say it. Like Night of the Living Dead, you know how that opening scene plays out, like they're coming to get you, Barbara. It's such a simple scene, and yet it still grabs you by the throat with that atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's what I get from City of the Living Dead, in a sense, if you will.
And it's funny we didn't even mention the maggot scene.
I'm just gonna say this right here. I love any movie that has maggots in it. I don't know what it is, but there's just something really creepy about a movie with maggots. So much I'm going for it to say, I dig the movie Bones, simply for that maggot scene that's in there.
And the way the maggots flies through the door, it's straightforward. So I'm like, did they just took a snow plower and just dumped that just straight in that apartment? Nah.
Honestly, you know what? Knowing Fulci and knowing the Italian cinema thing, they probably did. Yeah, they probably just had some like a snowblower, yeah, and threw maggots into it. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Well, yeah, it's just and again, it's oozing. It's oozing with atmosphere. It's crazy, bro. It's so. Well, I don't I know some people like judge the atmosphere by like they watch a film and they are like just like the atmosphere is just like the setup, but I judge the atmosphere as like how much like you're in it by what's displayed on screen.
Yeah.
And City of the Living Dead did it so well for me.
Mm. I agree.
No.
Good thing.
Oh yeah, I think it's a perfect storm of just everything works.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about things that you mentioned earlier, Will, the one scene that doesn't make sense. I mean, how about wanting to stop halfway along the way on the journey to get something to eat when you've only got like a sliver amount of time before Armageddon breaks open and we want to stop and get a bite to eat, and he's just looking there like, what's wrong with you?
That's even worse, bro. That's even worse. That's in my note actually. But it's good shit. It's enjoyable, bro. I mean, and like, tell me, like for this one, because I don't have a Blu-ray, I just have the Blue Underground Special Edition for it.
Mm.
I think both of y'all got the Arrow release, right?
I have the old Arrow release.
And I got the new one.
Yeah.
Is it worth upgrading?
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a documentary on there, Building Fulci City with Stephen Thrower. It's freaking.
Yeah, I looked it up online. It's online though. I looked it up.
Oh, is it?
Yep, it's online. It's a good one.
I mean, I didn't have the older Arrow release, so I mean, for me, just having all three films now, I mean, is a monumental achievement in my collecting life. I mean, I just love having all three in really good editions. Where I can pull a book out, read the book, I can throw a soundtrack in, I can check out a documentary, I can check out, the only thing I wish with the Grindhouse release of The Beyond is I wish there would have been, Stephen Thrower would have been in there somewhere on a dock, or the other guy who did Splintered Visions. Think of his name.
The dude who wrote the book.
Troy Howarth.
Yeah.
I wish he would have had a commentary on The Beyond. I love his commentary on Zombie and on House by the Cemetery. But
is the Settling Dead Arrow release out of print, or?
I don't know.
Not that I know of. I think there's a standard edition of it now. I don't know if the limited edition is still.
Is it just a UK release? Isn't it just a UK release?
I'm pretty sure it was. The special edition one.
Yeah.
They had the book and.
Yeah.
I think it is out of print, actually. The newer one.
Living Dead.
By the way, my birthday is the 15th of May.
Mine's end of April.
Yep. Mine's March. No, it's just showing the Blue Underground one, so it must be UK.
Well, we're big on when it comes to gifts, though. We're big on gifts when it comes to me and BDG.
Yep.
How I bought you the Rift. I bought you Pin. I bought you.
You bought me Airplane. That's reason enough.
Oh yeah, Airplane, bro.
Don't even get me started on that one. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're big on gifts. But is it off print or not?
I'm checking right now. Okay, here we go. It looks like the limited edition is out of print. but the standard edition is still around on Diabolic. And the older Arrow one, like the one I have, is on Diabolic as well.
Yeah, I just pulled up Amazon UK, and the special edition I got's not up. It's the just the film Blu-ray for 1080 pounds.
That's not bad.
No, actually, it's not.
By the way, since we're talking shit horror, and like we'll not edit that because we're still talking releases in horror. I gotta say, your Devil's Fish review is fucking on point. But I think I enjoy it more than you do. I really do enjoy that film, though.
Yeah, it's a fun movie, man. And you know what? Actually, we're talking about the drill bit scene in City. I was thinking in my mind, I wanted to say something, but if anyone came at least kind of close to a scene that was almost as unnerving as that drill bit scene, was Joe D'Amato's bandsaw scene in Absurd.
Oh yeah.
There's something unnerving about that scene. I mean, it's not as
Curious, what edition do you got? I got a Severin one.
I got the 88 release.
88 release, okay.
Yeah, I got it as just to match my Anthropophagus, which I absolutely adore that movie. Absolutely adore. That Anthropophagus is.
Absolutely, I love Anthropophagus.
That's the reason why I went region free, because there was no copy US that I could find it, so I finally decided to go region free. Just
when it comes to Anthropophagus and that Absurd, ain't that the one you got, BDG?
Mine is the Severin.
The for both?
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been the Fag though. Sorry.
Yes.
But let me tell you that since we're talking about like shark exploitation not long after Jaws, you ever seen Mako the Jaws of Death?
No.
BDG, please do the honor.
It's a movie. I'm gonna say that about essentially a guy who he's essentially a serial killer with sharks, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much from the get go.
He can talk to sharks. He's low rent Aquaman, and he literally talks to sharks. He's like, oh, Edward or whatever. He names them really weird names. Yeah, and it's a movie, and the whole part of it is like, oh, sharks are these misunderstood creatures. For a movie that's going on about how they're misunderstood, they kill a hell of a lot of sharks in that movie. How many dead sharks are in there? About like 15?
Like 15 dead sharks, like real tiger sharks, like hanging from the tail, like.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like, man, really?
That's the kind of dude, like he's flexing on that shark business, so he's bringing up some women and shit, and he, like, the women are like, oh, I don't believe you. He's like, you don't believe me? Let me throw up my carpet, and he lifts up like some door on the floor, and he's like, look, and he's like, where are you? Where are you? And some tiger sharks just come swimming.
Oh man,
it's awesome. It's good shit. It's really good shit.
Yeah.
As many sharks die as rats do in Night of Terror.
Probably.
A lot of rats die in that movie.
Yeah, but you were talking about the Matei film.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's more shark dying in Mako.
Man, it's an interesting one to say the least.
But it's not bad. It's still enjoyable for real.
That's true. We've kind of got off of City of the Living Dead, though.
Yeah. Again, my fault.
Yeah.
Again, my fault.
So yeah, should we do final reviews of City of the Living Dead?
Final ranking, yeah.
Well,
Does
one thing
some
before we
trivia?
start that. One thing before we start that. I think I've come up with the reason as to why they didn't embalm the chick in City of the Living Dead. I think she's Jewish. Jewish people don't get embalmed, apparently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, so maybe,
That
you know,
makes sense, actually. Really?
yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing. It's a complete plot hole. I'm sure it was just, you know, done for probably time. It was like, you know, we're not going to bother trying to explain that. We'll just put her in the hole. But it would make sense
I think
plot-wise.
she was Jewish. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, now we can get back to the
Yeah, but that
main
makes
reviews.
sense. That's clever for real.
Yeah. I mean, and it works. I mean, look at some of the mystics of the time. You know, Anton LaVey was originally a Jewish guy before he became a Satanist. Some people that Aleister Crowley knew were all like Jewish mystics and everything. So maybe there's something there.
Interesting.
Yeah, makes sense for real. That's yeah, actually really like it blows my mind. I didn't think about it for a second. Maybe it's Jeremy Freeman.
If that was the case, he'd just like ban everybody and not, you know, and not bother about getting.
Hashtag F Jeremy.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
you got some trivias, or you want to move on to some actual ranking?
let's get on to the rankings. Yeah.
But if Rob got some trivias,
Yeah. Well, if you do.
I don't know how much of a trivia it is, but it is interesting how this thing gets released in 1980 in Italy, and it's not until 83 that it's released stateside. That's
it
kind
was
of
released as Zombie 2 or 3, right? 2?
I don't know.
In some Portuguese countries, from what I read, it was like advertised like Zombie 3 or something like that.
That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'll check my Book of the Dead. Let's take a look here. Dead, Demonium, blah, blah. C. City of Living Dead. Alternate titles. Gates of Hell. It was released apparently as Ein Zombie hing Glockenspiel.
No, yeah, that's how I. No.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised, you know, some of the.
Kingdom Time?
Yeah.
Oh, we need some Froodstein in there.
Yeah. You know, but a lot of like Italian films end up getting released so many times that, you know, I don't know how many times I've gotten copies of House by the Cemetery under different names. Probably about 7.
I got a Canadian release, a French Canadian release, bootleg that was entitled Cemetery. Just Cemetery.
Oh, well, there you go.
So,
Okay.
overall thoughts, should we move to ratings or
Yeah, might as well, eh?
who want to go first?
Yeah, I'll
I
go
can
first, I guess.
I can
Okay.
do.
I'll go first. For overall enjoyment, I give it a
you
10.
don't give a 10, I'm
10.
pull up
10.
with a rock and a sock.
It's a complete 10. It is awesome. It's pretty much a perfect Fulci film, honestly. And it also gets a 10 for rewatchability.
Oh, that's kind of rare, though.
Yeah. I would watch it anytime. It's awesome. And definitely a buy. In fact, it's a multiple buy.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I've got 2 copies right now, so.
Yeah, I got 3. I got 2. I got 1 DVD, one Blu-ray, and 1 VHS. So.
Yeah, but do you have the what's it called, the Dark Storm or whatever version?
No, bro. What the fuck is that?
Oh, it's but not Dark Storm,
Dark Sky?
No, with the guy that looks like Low Rent Danzig.
Yeah. You're talking about the Dark. Oh, did you buy that?
No.
Dark Force?
Dark Force, that's it. No, but I know
Oh fuck!
No.
I bought that, bro.
No.
Gave.
No, I did not buy it, but it does exist.
Oh, okay, you don't have it. All right.
No.
So you're safe.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
Enjoyment, easy 10. This movie, just the atmosphere, the music, I mean, everything just comes together about as perfectly as it could come together in terms of, well, it combines a few of my favorite things. It combines, my love for H.P. Lovecraft, my growing love for Lucio Fulci, those who worked closely with him, even going back, to, the Psychic up to Zombie and this, 3 year stretch. And this movie is, for me, it's about as perfect as it goes for a horror movie. I mean, and as far as rewatchability, I mean, because of the atmosphere and the music and the sense of dread, I mean, yeah, 10. I mean, this is perfect. This is perfect for me. Buy absolutely, and as many as editions as you can find.
In this house, what you don't know will hurt you. It was to be a getaway dream. It's becoming a runaway nightmare.
Do you see anything?
Some old steps going down.
He has been awaiting the arrival of his new guests. One by one, they are disappearing. One by bloody one. When you move to this house, before you get locked in, read the fine print.
Mommy, hurry!
You may have just mortgaged your life. Due to the graphic nature of this film, no one under 18 will be admitted. House by the cemetery.
So now we're going to get into House by the Cemetery.
Absolutely. AKA the best one.
AKA Bob is a little bitch.
AKA fuck Bob, but
Yeah.
still the best one.
I just found that really funny what I wrote the other night when you were mentioning Bob, and I thought you were talking about the House by the Cemetery one, and I'm like, Bob can eat a bag of dicks.
Yeah, no, bro, that Bob dog got me fucked up, bro.
I mean, well, the thing is, I just finished watching House by the Cemetery, so I was like, that little bastard. Like, everyone else died, and he got to live in his alternate reality or whatever with his girlfriend.
The first thing I gotta say about that film, bro, is actually, you remember, Rob, you there?
Yeah,
Not dead yet?
I'm here.
All right. You remember that scene when the parents go to file some paperwork and they leave Bob in the car?
Yeah.
What you don't know is someone abducted Bob, but he returned Bob as soon as he heard him speak.
Oh, I totally believe it.
Fuck Bob, bro. Really?
It's some bad dubbing. I mean, I know it's like kind of just
bad
just
dubbing.
the thing that they do, but still. He was dubbed by a woman as well.
It's really fucking bad.
Yeah.
Really.
You know that, eh? That was a woman doing the dubbing for his voice?
I didn't know.
Yeah. It's like what? Like you couldn't find a kid? No, it's like just get a woman. Like a full-grown woman.
That's pretty messed up.
Oh, so honestly, bro, can you kill that kid? That's the one thing.
Well, that's the thing, you know, like all the other
It's
ones.
still my favorite, though. It's still my favorite.
Yeah.
The Italian non-dub version is my favorite.
Yeah. I've actually taken a bit more of a liking to it than I used to.
Oh, yeah, exactly. How come you love more the Beyond and City over House? I think House is really overlooked. Even with you, Rob, you were like, oh, really? Like,
I just think with House, at least for me, it always feels like kind of like the unwanted stepchild. Like, it's like one of these things is not like the others, and it's House by the Cemetery.
Yeah, but it's completely different too. I mean, House is like haunted house story slasher, if you want. I mean,
yeah, I think that's the thing. You know, if I look at it as part of the Gates of Hell trilogy, it seems out of place. But
it is too.
Yeah,
and that's why I love it so much.
Yeah, as a movie on its own.
It's really different. That's why I love it so much. It's different. It's something else. I mean, from the get-go, you got like two, well, I was about to say teenagers, but let's be honest, like, they are like 30 years old.
Yeah.
Like, you got that, like, that couple that is like, you know, like, I guess they somewhat like sneak into the house and like she get a knife through the back of the head, and that knife is like sticking out of her mouth, bro. That's so fucking great, bro.
That is. That's one of those scenes.
Just opens. You can't go wrong with that.
Very true. It's an awesome scene.
What about you, Rob? You don't seem to be like a big House fan.
No, it's funny. It's actually grown on me, especially I think this week actually taking a really closer look at all three films. It does have, I've noticed, because it always seems to have been, to be said that House is the more structured one of the three, where its narrative is
the more straightforward too.
But it is still kind of disjointed in the sense that there are questions in this movie. Like,
here's one. Tom in the house and shit like that, and why does like the picture in that house in the beginning is like the same house that they actually moved to, and he's like, oh no, like every house looks like this. Fuck out of here, bro.
Not even that. Why does it seem like that Norman and Anne got a thing going on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like it, man. It seems like they
A-
got a
a-
thing
you,
going
you
on.
you mean when they look when you got that like close up eye shot?
Well, and you got that when they're when him and his when Norm and Lucy are in the when they're inside getting the things they need, and Bob's out in the car. I mean, as soon as they sit down, the girl's looking at him, goes, "Well, you've been there before, right?" And you got a lot of those little things that almost makes it seem as though him and Anne have been there together before. And then you got this whole issue of, well, is Lucy, sort of have drugged to most of it because of the pills and that whole issue. So I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on.
Yeah, he's like, "Have you taken your pills? You can get some hallucinations on top of it." And she's like, "Why do you push me to take my pills if I can?" He's like, "Oh no, and like the the way the way it plays out, like he's just like, "I don't want you to be all crazy, fucked up. So take your pills, go to sleep." That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, that is so bizarre, and it's bizarre too seeing the Arthur character from the Beyond in the library working there as a weird person too.
Everyone is. I mean, let's be honest. Pretty much everyone is weird in that trilogy, bro. I mean,
Yeah.
can you name a single character that is actually normal?
Bob.
Well, yeah, Bob. Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, he's about as normal as they come.
That's why I don't want kids. you know.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
really, is there anyone actually legit normal?
I mean, what about
The most normal person is the actual landlord. That lady that like ignores the when the what's her name? What's her name? I can't remember her name. Fuck. Um, like they cross her on the streets, and she's like, "Oh, they didn't. She didn't see me, or she just like turned her head away." What's her name? Ah, it's in House by a Cemetery. I'm talking about House by a Cemetery. What's her name? I can't remember her name. But anyway, that's actually the one normal person. That's how I act. If you look at me, I'll act like I didn't see it and just go straight forward, you know.
David Warbeck's character in the Beyond's pretty normalized,
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
more than Christopher George's, and I mean he comes across as somewhat normalized, but not as much as David Warbeck's. He seems to be pretty rational.
Yeah, but Christopher George was at least enjoyable.
Oh, some of his facial expressions are awesome.
Like I said, he was enjoyable.
Speaking of Warbeck, I just have to say, if you listen to the commentary on the Beyond, I'm pretty sure he's drunk throughout the entire commentary, and it's kind of awesome.
I didn't watch the film with the commentary.
Yeah. You should, and it's just to hear him, and he just keeps shouting Ebon. It's kind of funny.
But what?
Yeah.
Well, clarify this for me real quick on House. The two that we see at the very beginning, they're just sort of hanging out in there rather than his peer who's been doing research, who he ends up picking up where he left off, who hangs himself in the library because I think the Freudstein got his hands on
he
his.
discovered what Freudstein was doing, I think.
Yeah, he ends up kind of refocusing his research more into Freudstein, and then he ends up hanging himself in the library. But the two kids that we see at the very beginning, the girl that gets the scissors through the back of the head through her mouth, they really have nothing to do with this at all, except for just.
Oh no,
being out,
absolutely
right?
not. It's just like setting up the whole film. I think
They're complete wrong place,
because
wrong
the,
time.
the first like if you would like if you look at this film for the first time, even myself, the first time I saw that film, from the get go, from how it began till maybe the 20-minute mark, I was like, that's a slasher film.
Yeah.
Really, I was like, kind of, I was, and that's kind of weird to say, but I was like, you know that, I don't know how it's called in French, but that Goosebumps, book, maybe it's Don't Go in the Basement or something like that, but I was like, it's kind of, I kind of, see it as the same thing, Don't Go in the Basement, and that's how that Goosebumps book, like, opens up, like, there are some people in the basement and they never got out. So I was like, oh, maybe that's the same thing. But like I said, first time I saw that film, I was maybe like 14 years old or so. So, and even today, I mean, if I, like, let's say I'm not a horror fan, I don't know shit about horror, just put that film in front of me from the get go, I'm gonna think it's a slasher for the first 20 minutes for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. Absolutely.
Well, let's be honest. That's essentially what it is. I mean,
Well,
until you get to the
it's
end.
a supernatural. Well, nah, I don't see it as a slasher. Really, I don't think it's a slasher.
Mhm.
Rob, do you think it is?
No, I don't know if I do. I think the whole story with Freudstein is compelling enough in how they handle it to keep it, from
It's got
being.
there's like a sci-fi mystery to it, if you will. It's really it's that kind of film that's really weird. It's just
Oh, it's funny. His backdrop,
working off to it was. I mean, it's fucking great, bro. I love it
the
so
whole
much.
the whole backdrop is actually kind of intriguing. You never get much of it at all, but what you do get is
Oh
it's
yeah, absolutely, bro.
intriguing to think about him just being an absolute freaking nut job,
Oh yeah,
experimenting on
but
people.
even before you know that they were absolute nut jobs, like you know that scene where Bob goes in the cemetery and like that little girl is there behind him and she's like, I know she's not buried there.
Yeah,
What's her name though? It's
May. Well,
May.
May
Yeah,
and
May
Mary
first.
Freudstein.
Yeah, and she's like, I know she's not buried there. It's just there's even that. I mean, I hate Bob, but like I can like maybe it's the fact that I hate Bob so much, so that's why I kind of I can replace I can like myself and put it instead of that dickhead so easily maybe, but house from let's say 0 till 34, the 34 and a half minute wise is perfect for me, really. It really is. But I mean, there's some flaws to it again. I mean, when they go to the landlord and they are like, tomorrow, not later, tomorrow we're leaving tomorrow. And the next scene, everything's good. They are still there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still some pretty messed up stuff, but it's still so enjoyable. But again, I mean, I don't see it as a slasher, but I mean, I kind of see that slasher DNA in it. Maybe that's why I love it so much. because I think there are some scenes that are really done this way. That scene when that girl that works for the landlord company that comes into the house, and she steps on that grave, and that grave just like break.
Yeah.
She got stuck, and like you just see that hand like just stabbing her like slowly with whatever that fire thing is, because I never saw a fire piece like that, but just like I just love it. Even if it don't make sense, I can forgive it like so much more than the two other film that we talked about, really.
Yeah. I mean, I dig that scene with that slow stab because that's just like really mean spirited.
Yeah, totally.
So slow. It's like, oh man. It's like you're enjoying this a bit too much, aren't you?
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Don't be shy to talk, Alan. Don't be shy to talk, bro. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think the scene that works best for me in terms of terror, and I was reminded by this just last night when I was rewatching it. I absolutely love the scene when Bob and his mom are at the top of the staircase and they can't get out, and Freudstein is making his way up the stairs.
Oh yeah.
And he grabs her, and man, he just starts as he's pulling her down across the stairs to the bottom. You get the camera is like initially kind of close at Bob, but then as he's screaming, the camera is coming down the stair, as she's being dragged down, and that whole sequence, I mean, that just works for me, man. I think that's the one scene with Bob that is one of the more compelling moments with his character, that in spite of the bad dubbing and everything, you don't have to worry about that in that scene, that moment. I mean, because he's screaming. That scene works good. I still don't understand what's going on when Lucy comes down first thing in the morning, and Anne is cleaning up the blood off the floor, and she's completely oblivious that there's even any blood on the floor that she's cleaning up. And I don't know,
and the next scene afterward is like she's all good with it. She's like just like bring coffee to her husband. She's like, oh, here's your coffee.
So is that the pills in action, or?
It could be. I just love that. It's like, what are you doing? I made coffee. It's like, oh, okay.
And
this literally like the day before, they're like, we're leaving, tomorrow, as soon as you can. We're leaving.
It's like the biggest time jump nonsense thing going on. I mean.
Yeah, and then it's like, no, I think we'll stay here, actually.
Norman is so weird, though, because I think Fulci, I don't know if he just intentionally, he creates moments of tension or doubt as to.
Oh, yeah, I think it is intentionally, really.
Because you just don't know if he's got something going on, and I don't mean necessarily just with Anne, but he just sometimes he just comes across
something going on, but he doesn't finish it, if you will. He's just like throwing ideas into that film, but forget about some, and then it gets released. That's how I see it.
Well, I can kind of see that, yeah.
That's how I see it, for real. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad. Like House, like I said, it's my favorite, really. Like that whole Dr. Freudstein mystery, that Freudstein monster. I love that. I really do. But it's pretty stupid.
I think that's the thing with it, like where the other two are more, I guess, serious. House is more stupid fun.
Well, like I said, City is still straightforward. I mean,
yeah.
But House is like just pure purely. I mean, like that's maybe that's why I love it so much. It's the fact that if you miss maybe let's say 5 or 10 minutes of it, you can still enjoy it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's how I see it. I really love House. Really, I know it's probably I know Rob. That's
Yeah.
not your favorite one, right?
No, but I mean, I see it. I mean, I get the, well, it doesn't really fit into the trilogy as it ought. At the same time, it it still feels in a weird way like it's part of it. But nah, I don't know. I do enjoy it though. I mean, I'll tell you, when I was, this has got to be one of those movies. And when I was a kid, I rented the artwork, well, the old artwork with the house in the background and the hand with the knife in front of it. Um, but for the longest time, I actually had. This is gonna sound really terrible, but I had this. Somehow, I could not get this or Ghost House. They were almost interchangeable for me until I ended up seeing Ghost House, and when I revisited Ghost House, uh, I was like, wait a minute, then what the heck was that other movie? And then I realized it was how, and then I realized why I confused it was because, the house is in the same house is used in both movies.
Yeah.
And that's how I must have confused it as a kid. I must have seen Ghost House. I saw House by the Cemetery, and then somehow I just got the two worked into one another, where it took me later on in life to pull the two apart and realize, oh yeah, they're two totally different.
Yeah, they I mean, and that's the point. They are so different when you see a City of the Living Dead and the Beyond. I mean, you kind of see you can. I mean, they are not the same film, but you can. I mean, you can like take those films and say, okay, that's a small universe. Those two films are a universe. But House, I just can't connect it really. And maybe that's why I love it so much because it's so different.
I always think of it more closer to like Manhattan Baby and almost like the New York Ripper as well than I do the Gates of Hell flicks. I don't know why, but they just seem.
Yeah, and here comes your point of zombie being actually part of
Yeah.
the Gates of Hell trilogy.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems so like, how can I put it, like it's a no-brainer. It should be part of it.
It should, but I mean, just zombie as a standalone film, it is what it is. But if you include like zombie as a standalone film, no problem. But if you include zombie as something that spawns sequel like Zombie 3, I love Zombie 3, but Zombie 3, 4, 5, and I mean, we can go on and on forever about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it all depends on how you actually like can link those films together, if you will. Even
Yeah.
if you don't really need any link, because I mean, like, just look at City and the Beyond. There's no obvious link. Like,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but is there any obvious link?
Well, I mean, you can kind of bookend in a sense. Zombie, the end of Zombie, the zombies are crossing over Brooklyn Bridge at the beginning of House. They're coming out of the city having crossed over Brooklyn Bridge. And I always found that was kind of an interesting.
At the beginning of House?
Yeah, at the beginning of House, when they're on their way out of the city, on their way to the house, you can see Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh yeah, okay,
So,
behind, because I was there's no zombie in the beginning of a house.
and if
But yeah,
no,
when
and
the family is moving on, and you can see the Twin Towers and that Brooklyn Bridge and shit.
but it's interesting because if you see the 4 films as almost like a funnel effect, you know, the bigger one being zombie, as you go through the movies, it all kind of narrows down, and the most narrowest one being house at the end. It's almost like a journey from, you know, from one to the other, and the road just narrows down to a final point, whatever that point is supposed to be.
Yeah, but that point is so simple, though. I mean, that's why it's my favorite. It's so simple yet straightforward. Like kind of like I said, City of the Living that is straightforward. I mean, but House is straightforward, like in its own way. I think. I can't like what I'm watching The Beyond. I can't do it. I can't sit through it without thinking about City, and vice versa. It's the same thing for City, but with House, not really.
Yeah, I get it.
And yet all these movies were made within a narrow 3-year time period,
Yeah.
which is amazing. That
Yeah.
to me is the most amazing thing
Oh,
about this.
absolutely.
I mean, 79. I mean, 79 and end of 81, and not only these 4 films, the Black Cat is tucked in there.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. In 4-year period, we get, considerably speaking, the high point of horror in a 3-year stretch.
Yeah. It's kind of insane.
That is absolutely remarkable when you really think about it, and you consider what we get today, or, you know, have in the past, and you consider what they, and with the money. I mean, you know, these movies were made at a fraction of, say, what it cost, you know, what Romero got on Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
And yet you watch some of these movies are absolutely just, I mean, visually gorgeous to watch, and you wonder, how the heck did you pull off these practical effects with hardly no money?
Yeah.
And it's such a short amount of time too.
Yes. That's mind-boggling to think that they were able to do that. I mean, it just, I don't know, that just, I mean.
But I mean, I get what you mean, but I don't get why, like, House is looked upon as being like the weakest of all 3, because it's so different. The narrative plays on its own, really. It's just, I don't know, maybe.
I think that's why, because it feels so different, but you're still putting it in, you know, part of the trilogy. You know, like if you didn't consider, if you considered all of these standalone films, like completely standalone films, I think, you know, they'd all be around the same level. But when you make it,
since it's part of a trilogy, and that trilogy was pretty much a fan-made trilogy.
Yeah, that's true.
Why do you bash on that third entry that we pretty much decided that's gonna be the third entry?
Because we shouldn't have decided that was going to be the third entry. It just feels so different.
Well, you know, maybe that's why, like, maybe instead of, maybe the mistake was just beginning to refer to this trilogy as the Gates of Hell trilogy, and not what some consider it to be Fulci's Lovecraft trilogy.
Yeah.
Because all 3 films do find their roots in Lovecraft more than this idea. I mean, the first 2 films, you know, you can tie together with the Gates of Hell idea, but the third one, you know, you can as easily. So maybe there needs to be more attention placed on the idea that this is inspired by Lovecraft.
Yeah, absolutely. I get what you mean, but since we see it, we the fans made that a trilogy, if you will. That's the Gates of Hell trilogy. That's how that the fans made it.
Mhm.
You know, and like, how can everyone like is like, City is cool, Beyond is cool, and House is well, why do you like just I don't I honestly, I don't think House is bad at all. It's really enjoyable, for real.
It
It's really
is.
enjoyable, and it probably got it's out of the three. I think it's the one with the most decent narrative or story, really.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think if you look at these three films specifically as though it is a Gates of Hell trilogy, I can see how you would look at House as being the weakest. But if you look at this as his Lovecraft trilogy, then it makes it much more difficult to see a weaker one.
But even like, take out both Lovecraftian trilogy and Fulci trilogy, just three separate films. Like, which one is more enjoyable, or which one makes more sense to you? For me, and especially since I'm a slasher fan, it's definitely House.
mm, I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that it's so straightforward.
And see, as a Lovecraft admirer, I find most of my fascination, I think, with City, just because that seems to be the most Lovecraftian accomplishment. He was able to take certain themes that a lot of people have a very hard time with, and he was able to express it in a way,
In his own way.
yeah, in his own way, exactly, in his own way, but yet in a way that is so absolutely I mean, HP Lovecraft. I mean,
Yeah,
and you know,
it's his own vision of something, of a base material done differently in his own vision.
and yet, you know, in a sort of bigger scope, you know, you are dealing with, you know, none of this is even possible if it isn't for the success of Zombie in '79, which, you know, became a catalyst for this incredible 3 year time period, which unfortunately, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fallout between Sacchetti and Fulci, but it's unfortunate that it's not going to take long past House for, you know, his career to very in quick order begin to wind down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
but still, I mean, bro, uh, like, don't tell me House is not like enjoyable. Like,
oh, it's not. Oh, it is. Absolutely, it is. It's intriguing. There's a lot of things to think about. I mean, in some ways, just as the other two films give you intriguing things in its own way, I mean, just Norman's character alone. I mean, you just never really know from one moment to the next where his loyalties really lie. The whole,
I just love, maybe it's that whole I mean, it's kind of like a haunted house setting. Like, don't go in the basement, you know. Maybe that's why it works so well for me, because I love that kind of shit, bro. I'm a big fan of like supernatural horror and things like that, like ghost stories, and maybe that's why it works so well for me. But like, I don't know, like, just the fact that you know, he wakes up, he hears that, and like he goes down, and there's and just like working his way like to get that door open. Like, that's so fucked up, bro.
yeah, and you know what I think works too. Actually, in a weird way, I think it really works is this notion that after he has the traumatic experience of finding Anne's head and then the bottom of the cellar, and he brings his mom down there, and when nothing is there to be seen, well, he questions himself, and so realistically, you can see why he goes back down there.
I gotta ask you though, did you see it coming though? I saw it coming from the get go, because like that mannequin that.
Oh yeah, well yeah, that was the big foreshadow for.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like from the get go, when I saw that scene, I was like, oh, so with all those scenes where you see the eyes of the actual person and you see the eyes of the mannequin, I'm like, oh, she's gonna die. She's gonna die. Like.
She's almost in a weird way. She's almost your Martha character from the Beyond. She's got there's weird things about her too.
She's more interesting though.
Yeah.
I think so. Really. Stop sucking the dick of the Beyond, bro, and steady.
No, you say she's more interesting?
Yeah, she's more.
Oh yeah, she's more intriguing in the way, just the way she.
Yeah, that's
her way she looks.
It's absolutely the way she behaves. It's fucking terrifying, bro.
Martha just comes across as
taking care of Bob. She stares you in the eye with those green, empty fucking.
You can't figure out what's behind it. You can't figure out what's behind it.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
With Martha, man, Martha looks at Joe and she's like, hey, I just led the way to your demise. With Anne, it's like, you can't figure out.
It's just empty. There's nothing behind it. It's just a bland stare. There are things like that you don't get in those two films that I love so much, bro. Really.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting.
He's gonna rewatch him.
May's character is interesting too. Actually, I think the whole connection between just Bob and her and the way they see things as children, via the reality that is around them. It's interesting.
Who are you? I'm the babysitter.
What I just find really kind of funny, and it's really odd, really. The little girl in House by the Cemetery looks kind of a lot like the little redheaded girl in The Beyond, but without the giant bullet wound to the head.
Did I say what happened to Bob when they went and filed some papers?
Yeah, oh yeah, when he got abducted and then they brought him back.
That scene where the parents leave Bob in the car so they can file some paperwork.
Yep.
What we don't see is someone abducted Bob.
Yeah.
But he returned that shit as soon as he realized how annoying that kid was.
Yeah, it was like, nope, go back. And he's like, see that little redheaded chick over there? Go talk to her.
Yeah.
So here's the big multi-million-dollar question. Maybe not so. When Bob walks off with May and Mary Freudstein down the road, can we assume that a little bit of distance down the road, they will suddenly find themselves standing right in front of the house by the cemetery?
No way.
Because they cannot escape. It's an everlasting loop. They can't escape the home that is not a home to them. They're trapped there forever.
It's basically a tomb. That's basically what it is. It's a tomb that leads up to hell. That's how I see it. I don't know about you, but
how do you see it, PDJ?
I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to kind of hope that it's that downer of an ending, but another part of me is saying that, that's like another dimension type thing, and Bob and his girlfriend are safe over there.
But I don't think the door to the basement is actually the way to enter that hell portal. I love to think that tomb on the second floor before the basement is actually where that door is.
Could be, yeah.
And it was, and if you think about it, like some pretty fucked up shit were happening, like even before that landlady came in and investigate the thing, and not investigate but checked out the place. Some pretty fucked up shit happened. But the minute she stepped on that tomb and she broke it, like that Fruchtine monster like came and like he was like there full power right away, and throughout the rest of the film it's like that. So I'm like, is was that Fruchtine like tomb actually the gate? Because from the get go, yeah, there are some pretty messed up stuff, but nothing too crazy. But once she stepped on that tomb and it breaks out and it's actually like there's an opening in it, that's where everything goes downhill.
Never thought of that before.
Yeah.
That actually kind of makes it fit in more with the
And you
Gates
know,
of
and
Hell idea.
in a way, you could almost argue that the ending of House is actually more haunting than Beyond ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Be-
But do you get I mean?
Yeah. I get it. Yeah.
By the like when it gets like you get a decent crack opening, and that like now Fruition is about to like drag some spirits, and maybe the fact that like that tomb is now open and cracked up, maybe the family like living in it like don't really see what's going on because it's like, all fucked up, if you will. It's like unreal. It's like there's a gate to hell open in your house.
Yeah. It
I think
certainly
that's how I see it, really.
makes sense.
Do you think it makes sense, Rob?
Yeah, I'm not sure why I really quite didn't see it from that point earlier watching it, but I think that's that is the most plausible way to
Yeah.
view this, and it makes it haunting too. Is I'm just it begs the question of the relationship that existed between Dr. Freudstein and his wife Mary and his daughter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's really depressing.
Yeah, it's even sad.
And Bob ultimately, say what you will about Bob, but he gets caught up into that, and he's trapped in that world forever.
Hashtag fuck Bob, but more than hashtag fuck Bob.
Because think about it, in the end,
fuck Jeremy.
In the end, his parents can't save him.
No, they can't.
From that future.
Well, not I mean, they could have saved him, I think, if they didn't like move to that place.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that initially you have May, warned Bob. And what does he say? Well, your parents never listened to you anyways.
Yeah, he's like, I don't want to go. Don't go there. Don't go there. Like, even from the get-go.
Man, if they just listened to Bob, everything would have been fine.
Fuck Bob, bro. Well, yeah, that's how I see it, and maybe that's why I love it so much, because it's like alleged. Like I see that Freudstein tomb on the floor as like alleged like gateway to hell. Maybe it's because you see it like visually, and like since it's got like it got broke, and throughout the film like it gets broke even more. That's why he gains power and he can like interact with the living world. That's how I see it. Maybe that's why I love it so much. But
yeah. damn it! Now I'm gonna have to rewatch it again.
I know. Yeah. Now, not to get too deep on this, but isn't it something that his tomb rests in the home, his wife's tomb, her grave rests outside the home.
Yeah.
I don't think he's. You mean if he was even buried?
No, that's true. He has a tomb in the home, and her grave is out in the.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever buried to begin with. I think Frustein like achieved like supernatural like spiritual level like beyond the common human comprehension, if you will.
He got that power, and it made him look like a ball sack.
Yeah, but that's how I see it. Maybe that's why I enjoyed it so much. But I love to play around with that film. Just like I've studied it so much, you know. It's
Yeah. I think I'm gonna have to watch it again.
So Rob, what how do you see that film? Like the whole narrative of it, like how do you see it? How do you interpret it, if you will?
How do I interpret it?
Yeah.
I mean, the home is. Yeah. I mean, it's a resting place to Freudstein, and he's continually looking to, you know, drag more souls into that place. At the same time, his daughter is out there trying to keep people away from it, and yet that tomb within that, yeah, I think it's like what you said. It becomes an entrance point, a gateway almost to a hell. And even though Bob, you think he gets out of it, he doesn't get out of it. He only moves from one point and yet into another point that is never ending. I mean, he's trapped there forever.
Good.
Yeah. Never circle.
I think every movie has its own really unique sort of way to enter and exit it. It's whether they should be called the Gates of Hell trilogy or Fulci's Lovecraft trilogy, or they are three very interesting films that beg a lot of questions.
Definitely.
I mean, it's the kind of film. I think it's really down to who watches it. Really.
Yeah.
So should we, if you don't have anything else to say about it, should we close that episode or?
Yeah, sure. I guess get final like ratings of it and everything.
Absolutely. Ratings, that's a 10 out of 10 for me. Enjoyment, absolutely. Rewatchability, 10 out of 10 too. Buy or rent, it's a buy.
Cool. For me, it's a buy because it's good. For a rating, it's 8 out of 10. So same as the Beyond. And rewatchability, that's got to go up a bit now because of everything you've mentioned. So I'm gonna give that like an 8.5.
That's pretty good. What was your initial rating?
My initial rating was like rewatchability was like a 4.
Damn.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm thinking maybe I've missed a lot of stuff. Maybe I need to go back and just look at it like from a different angle.
Well, again, it's how you see it. That's how I see it. So.
Yeah.
What about you, Rob?
I'd probably say, as far as enjoyment, I think it's definitely I think it's somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9. I really enjoy this film a lot. Rewatchability, I can rewatch this film anytime, so I probably around a 9 for rewatchability. I can put this movie on anytime. Definitely a buy.
Nice.
Damn. Nice. So yeah, we'll close that episode up. Well, first of all, Rob, where can we find you for the listeners?
Body Bags.
Body Bags on YouTube, or
Yep.
you got some emails or anything, like just throw it all away.
Body Bags is the main place. That's where I put up most of content from week to week is Body Bags. VHS 82 apostrophe.
You on Letterboxd too, right?
Yes, that's right. Letterbox. God, I'm trying to think what my thing is.
Isn't it The Last Jedi Rocks My World?
VHS 82. Locates VHS 82 is my letterbox.
All right. So if y'all want to see good shit, that's where you're gonna hang. Me, I don't. I have a letterboxd. It's Little Dead Meat, aka Will Cardinal, their French pseudo host, and the actual host is BDG Reviews. You can find it on. You can find him on. Body Bags too, right?
Yeah, Body Bags and YouTube, and on
the Facebook page.
Yeah,
too.
and Letterboxd as well under BDG 1980.
Yeah, so
I don't have much on there, but
if anyone want to join the Facebook group page, it's Bay of Blood Podcast / We Have Such Flicks to Show You. So you're welcome.
Yep.
And we're out.